Danny, consider this fact. These cars could go even faster than that. Down the straightaways, they've been clocked in excess of 240, almost 250 miles an hour. So what has CART done? They've tried to slow down the evolution of speed. For this race, they've introduced this piece that's euphemistically called a tunnel blocker. It's located beneath the tunnels. It slows the cars by about 25 to 30% in terms of downforce. Drivers say, though, it gets a little dicey in the corners, and they're still going 225 miles an hour.
Keep in mind now that with the increased speed, there's more premium on pit stops than ever. Remember, you lose 2 seconds here in the pits to your opponent. That's 250 yards, more than 1/8 of a mile on the racetrack. And these guys are going to be tested today a minimum of 6 times, maybe 7, maybe 8. Not the 2 or 3 we've become accustomed to in other events this year. They must be focused, they've got to execute, and they've got to do it in mid-90-degree temperatures for 500 miles.
Bout is the championship. Years ago, they awarded extra championship points for your results in a 500-mile race. No more, but that doesn't lessen the challenge. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Barsha. My colleagues have given you a little taste of what's about to unfold. The classic American motor racing distance, 500 miles, more than twice as far as the stars of the PPG Kart World Series have had to go in any of the previous 11 rounds of the championship. But it's not pure mathematics. 500 miles is not simply twice the effort, twice the number of pit stops, twice the miles on the engine. It is much tougher than that. And of course, the points championship is what it's all about. 5 men within 15 points of the lead. It's going to be a great race here at Michigan Speedway, the US 500. On a steaming day here at Michigan, cars are on the racetrack. Let's check out the way they'll line up with the help of our Miller starting grid. Scott Pruett is on the pole for the 3rd time in his career. The first oval pole for Pruett. He'll be alongside Brazilian Mauricio Gugelmin. On row 2, RAUL BOESEL looking for his first career win. And Jimmy Vasser, the defending champion of the US 500. Row 3 will be Parker Johnstone, his best starting position of the year. And Bobby Rahal, the dean of active drivers. Row 4 will be Alex Zanardi, who has 2 wins this year. And Brian Herta, who finished 2nd in last year's July 500-miler at Michigan. On row 5, Andre Ribeiro, the winner of a 500-miler run here last July, and Gilles de Ferran of Brazil. On row 6, Mark Blundell, the Englishman, and Patrick Carpentier. On row number 7, Dario Franchitti and Christian Fittipaldi. On row number 8, Adrian Fernandez and Al Unser Jr. On row 9, Michel Jourdain Jr. and Paul Tracy. Row 10 will be Michael Andretti, the winner here in 1987 and 89, and Walter Salas, the Brazilian rookie. On row number 11, Greg Moore and Richie Hearn. On row 12, Max Pappas and P.J. Jones. On row 13, Juan Fangio II and Hiro Matsushita. And on row 14, Dennis Vitolo and Ard Meyer. To Danny Sullivan.
Well, the stories today, it's a 2-mile oval. Race length is 250 laps. That's 500 miles. The defending champion is Jimmy Vasser, starting in position 3. Pit windows between 30 and 35. And the stories today, heat. And is that going to affect the engines? Can they go 500 miles at the speeds these guys are turning? And can the tires hold up at those speeds? And the points race. Who will come away with the most points? We're about to go green.
And the excitement level is rising with the fans here at Michigan Speedway. The fans will come to their feet as one in anticipation of the green flag at the first 500-miler of the 1997 season. Scott Pruett down low, Mauricio Gugelmin up high as they come off the final turn and head for the flag stand, and they will go 4 wide at the start of the race. And Jimmy Vasser absolutely absorbed by cars flying by him on either side. Gugelmin with the advantage off turn number 2. Pruett falls in behind. Now Pruett bids for the lead on the outside in 3.
And you saw him shift gears there. What he was doing was running 1 top, and he went up 1 more gear. They've got 2 top gears in here so that they can race at different RPMs.
Temperature in the mid-90s and climbing. Track temperature well over 130 degrees. And Gugelmin goes back underneath Pruett in 1. Christian Fittipaldi has made a dive for the pit lane. BOESEL runs in third. There you see Fittipaldi as the Newman-Haas crew goes to work, changing tires.
An apparent problem. They thought maybe there was a vibration on that opening lap. They came in. They don't know for sure. He's rolling now. It wasn't the cleanest of stops, but will it cost him big time?
Well, in a 500-mile race running at 225 to 230 mile an hour average speeds, Danny Sullivan, you can't take any chances.
No, not at those speeds. If anything goes wrong, it can be a huge accident. Also, I got to believe that pit crew wasn't quite prepared for him to stop on the first lap. That's not what they want to see.
You ride with Bobby Rahal running in the number 7 spot. Gilles de Ferran just behind him in 8th. And Mark Blundell. Here's the view from Michael Andretti's onboard camera. Blundell just ahead. Brian Herta, and now Patrick Carpentier with a noticeable wiggle up on the high side. To stand down in the turns and watch these cars come through, pushing the air at 225, 230 miles an hour. It's absolutely breathtaking. Michael Andretti in the black cars. Blundell darts to the inside but cannot pass.
From a driver's point of view, to be able to work in that high groove this early on is really a blessing. That means his car works up there. It'll also work down low. Brian
Herta in black and white, running just ahead of Michael Andretti. A long afternoon of high-speed racing ahead for the field of 28. On the backstretch. Carpentier looking underneath Andre Ribeiro, one of the drivers who switched from Lola to Reynard chassis, and Ribeiro enjoying every minute of it.
We saw Carpentier's car just before working in the high groove. Now he's going down low.
Ribeiro shown as 9th, Carpentier as 10th. But as you can see, positions change with the ebb and flow of the race at every corner. Once again, Andretti on the left, Herta on the right, running 11th and 12th.
Quick update, Bob, on Fittipaldi. Apparently he had a flat spot on one of the front tires, created a vibration. That's why he came in and made the change just after the start of the race.
Michael Andretti down low in the American-built Swift chassis. Carpentier with a Reynard. 5 laps complete. We'll be back with more live from Michigan Speedway. Mauricio Gugelmin leads the 4th lead in a race this year.
500 on ABC Sports. Brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that anything can happen at Miller time. Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. And Goodyear, #1 in tires.
Back in Michigan as the US 500 continues. For complete coverage of the CART PPG Cup World Series, including the latest news, notes, and results, check out ABC Sports Racing Area on America Online, keyword ABC Sports. On board with Michael Andretti, twice a winner here at Michigan. Andretti currently shown in 9th place, running all alone on the racetrack.
Bob, his crew chief Tim Bumps told me earlier that they had a problem on the boost yesterday in the qualifying run, which is why they down. The valve was actually set down about 0.9 of an inch, which was about 25 or 30 horsepower. And around here, that's a lot. That's why his qualifying run was so bad, and he had to start so far back.
Michael Andretti now in 8th and challenging Bobby Rahal on the inside for 7th. Michael is flying. He started 19th. He is up to 7th as you ride with Bobby Rahal.
And you're talking about that valve problem yesterday for Michael Andretti. We have word here in the pits that Greg Moore apparently is experiencing a valve problem early as well. They're hoping that they can make a change under a yellow flag around the first pit stop. So problems for the young driver from Canada.
And we have an engine let go right there. It's one
Boy, that's a big let go. I'm sorry, Bob. Look at the flames coming out of that.
That is P.J. Jones, whose father, Parnelli, the IndyCar legend, is here watching his son race this weekend. The yellow flag has come out. The pits will be closed, and Jones will pull his Toyota-powered Reynard to a stop just past the pit in. In fact, I'm sure he's looking for a fire station.
It's got to be warm inside the car for him. Look at him scrambling to get out, throw that steering wheel. Pulled a very smart spot right there with the fire trucks and the firemen.
Pits are closed. The red signboard with the black P means no one can come in as the safety car picks up the race leader. And now the pits open for the lead lap cars. Perhaps not much of an issue now, but it could be later on in the race when the lapping starts in earnest. Mauricio Gugelmin up front in the 4th race lead he's seen this year, but the first since the road course at Portland, Oregon weeks ago. Max Pappas just behind him in the MCI-sponsored Reynard with another Toyota engine. He lost one in the morning practice session. And then the Brahma Racing teammates, Pruett and Boesel, 2nd and 3rd in the race, 3rd and 4th on the racetrack. Pits are open, but the race leader will not come in.
My guess is it's a little early to be making a stop right now. They do not want to fuel right at this moment. You probably see somebody coming down the pit lane that has a problem.
You're absolutely right, Danny. Figured the leaders, as Gilles de Ferran comes down the pit road, the leaders don't anticipate pitting before lap 28.
And behind Gilles de Ferran, Paul Tracy and Al Unser Jr. Now, Paul Tracy has a particular problem this weekend. He was all set to debut a brand new racing helmet with all of the associated onboard communications gear.
Forbes, go and get him. The fueler, stay here.
Little flame coming out of the back just behind the right rear tire, or the left rear, but right rear on your screen.
Another engine bay fire. This is Greg Moore, the young Canadian who won a pair of races earlier this year. The youngest winner in series history. The car safety team has extinguished the fire, and they will tow him on in. You heard the crew on the radio telling which members of the crew to go down to the pit lane to go and get him. We'll take this opportunity for a break and return with more live great drama at the start of the US 500.
Michael came on to the
The US 500 continues here at the Michigan Speedway, a 2-mile oval located in Michigan. Paul Tracy, as we're still under yellow, in and out of the pits. His problem, according to his crew chief, very, very loose. Now, the front runners, precisely the Brahma team of Scott Pruett and also Raul Boesel, absolutely the opposite problem. Their cars are pushing in the middle of the corner. Both of them are electing at this point to stay out on the racetrack, and they say that they can live with the push. They couldn't live if it was loose. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
A year ago, Greg Moore was sensational at the start of this event as he charged from 17th position to 2nd in a matter of some 20 laps. Today, misfortune. The crew is scrambling down here as he is in the pits. There's conflicting information, and they're trying to pinpoint if the problem is valve related or if in fact it's ignition and electronics related. So what they're methodically doing is going through and change various components at this time. You're hearing Tony Brunetti on the radio behind us. He's talking as he advises Greg Moore of what's going on at this time. Meanwhile, in an adjacent pit, Christian Fittipaldi came in, topped off for fuel. Remember, he made the earlier stop for tires. Bob?
All right, thank you, Gary. Finishing off my Paul Tracy story. Tracy's all singing and dancing new helmet disappeared this weekend. He had to start the race without it.
When I talked to Paul earlier, he said that he's now gone to a road course helmet, and even though they've got the little ribs over the top to stop the buffeting, it's really forcing his head back in the cockpit and running around very tough on his neck.
Not what you need here with a 500-mile race in store. There's Mark Blundell, winner of 2 of the most recent 3 races, down to Jackaroo.
Well, P.J. Jones has made his way back, and P.J., what happened?
Well, I think I'm becoming my Castrol teammate, John Porsche, you know, down in flames. But we're running good. I thought we had a good car for the race, 500 miles. You know, in our situation, I felt we were running pretty good, and it just the motor let go, and nothing I could do. I was glad I was underneath Salas, and I think more, and I thought, oh man, I mean, it was a bad time for the motor to go, but you know, it's just too bad. The team's working hard. Toyota's doing a great job trying to develop this engine, and you know, we still got a long road to go.
A lot of people forget, Danny Sullivan, that it took Honda a little bit of time to gain on this kart series.
Jack, not only Honda, but let's not forget when the early Ilmor came out, it was a struggle with that engine too, and I was involved with that, and it took a couple of years to get it right. Toyota's doing a good job, and they will continue to do a good job.
Lest we forget the Alfa Romeo history as well, another project with which you have some experience, I know. We remain under caution here at Michigan. 533 laps remaining. Just the sheer mention of that kind of number around a 2-mile racetrack is pretty staggering. In the event of an accident, the kart drivers here today are in good hands. Not only is the series traveling safety team the best in the business when it comes to fire control, extraction, and medical expertise, backed up by a fully equipped mobile trauma unit, a state-of-the-art hospital on wheels. Gary Gerald takes us on a tour.
Anytime there's a problem on the racetrack, without fail, the first on the scene is one of the 3 kart emergency safety trucks. These vehicles are manned by 4 men, including a medical doctor, a paramedic, there's a fireman, and an extrication expert. These vehicles are equipped to handle virtually any situation on the racetrack, from putting out small fires with the onboard water supply to full extrication if necessary. If a driver happens to be trapped in the car, then perhaps the most important piece of equipment among the many pieces of equipment on these vehicles is the Homatro hydraulic rescue tools. These are cutting and grinding devices that can get through the carbon fiber and all the metal and free the driver. Then once he's stabilized and an assessment is made, if necessary, they'll transport him here to the Kart Medical Center. This is a virtual rolling hospital on wheels, valued at over $1 million. It's on site at all of the kart races on the North American continent. And inside, Dr. Stephen Olvey and his medical staff then continue the full evaluation and treatment.
There are 2 main scenarios that we use the medical facility for. One is a driver that's just crashed, and we bring him in here for observation because the adrenaline's going, he may be hurt, not know it. We want to check things and see and give it some time to see if anything turns up. The other is a driver that's obviously injured severely. We bring him in here for stabilization. We have the ability to do any immediate life-saving procedure that might be necessary, get them stabilized, into the helicopter and airlifted to the near trauma center. We're really proud of our unit. We think it's a one-of-a-kind. In fact, I know in all motorsports there's nothing to duplicate it.
Now there you see the problem that we're dealing with right now. A technician from Omega Timing down there working on perhaps a wire to be spliced or something. And we remain under caution.
Bob, let's update you on Raul Boesel. Boesel has been very animated on the radio during this caution, literally pleading with his crew to allow him to come in and adjust the push condition on the car. They know that he would then have to go to the back of the long line here and track position even this early in the race. They deem to be critical. They keep talking back to Raul on the radio saying, look, all you got to do is hang in for 10 more laps and we'll change the wing in our normal pit sequence.
And Jack, an update on Greg Moore. They changed all the electronic components while we were in that safety feature. They fired the engine and he did a big burnout getting back on track, but he lost obviously several laps to the field.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. As we saw, Brian Herta also paid a call to the pits. We anticipate 1 lap to go next time by. Now, Danny, as a driver, after all of the excitement of the first dozen laps or so of this race, you're under a caution, and now you spend extended time driving around behind the safety car. What does that do to your mindset?
It depends on what your car is doing, but if your car's been working well, you're pretty pleased with it. You're going to get it back and make sure that the tires are up to temperature, that there's no build-up on those tires, and you want to try to take advantage of this restart because you might have lost some ground to the other guy. Take Raul Boesel, for example. He's frustrated because his car's not handling perfectly. But let's not forget he's still running in 3rd spot. They want to wait that 10 more laps and not sacrifice a pit stop.
And Danny Sullivan, how'd you like to have Roger Penske in your ear, as is the case with Al Jr. right now? For the first 20 circuits, Al Jr. has heard Roger Penske say, look, you got to pick it up. You got to go faster. You got to pick it up.
And you also heard Michael Andretti talking with his crew chief, Lee White. Gauges back to 0. Everybody anticipating a long green flag run. Looking back at Michael Andretti, run in 7th place right now, looking out of the back of Jimmy Vasser's car. Restarts will be single file in today's US 500. The safety car has pulled away from race leader Mauricio Gugelmin at the bottom of your screen, still looking for his first victory after a number of very competitive qualifying performances and some great runs on oval racetracks from high overhead. Look at the gap he's opened up over the lapped car of Max Pappas, the dark blue machine, and then here come the Brahma teammates, Pruett and Boesel. And we are back under green, and cars going 2 and 3 wide as they head down into 1. You watch the Brahma teammates. A very wide, very smooth 2-mile racetrack here at Michigan Speedway allows drivers to take a number of lines down there. And look at the gaggle coming up from behind. Going by Patrick. That was Michael Andretti gets past.
Michael looked like had to hesitate just a little bit there from Max Pappas, and it allowed Jimmy Vasser to pass him, but look, he's gone right back by him, so he's sandwiched between the 2 target cars.
ZANARDI up ahead, Vasser behind. Now Andretti goes low in 1. Alex ZANARDI ran strongly in this race a year ago before suffering the inevitable sort of engine problems that come with 500-mile racing. Barron has been in and out of the pits.
And that was a penalty that was assessed to him, Bob, because he ran over Al Unser Jr.'s hose as he exited the pits during that caution.
Thanks, Jack. By the way, welcome back. Michael Andretti closes up on the Reynard with Honda Power Firestone tires for Alex ZANARDI. Andretti with a completely different mechanical makeup. The Swift chassis, a Ford engine, and Goodyear rubber.
And Bob, as disappointed as Michael Andretti was yesterday after qualifying 19th when they couldn't pinpoint a problem that related to boost, he's been elated after the morning half-hour warm-up session. And right now, everything that he's uttered on the radio has been positive. He loves the way this race car is working. And why not? From 19th, right now in 6th.
Down low goes Michael Andretti on Alex ZANARDI. Andretti has good reason to feel good. Last year in a 500-miler here in Michigan at the U.S. 500, 4 of the top 6 finishers started 14th or further back in the field. Now the long backstretch. Now Michael Andretti opens up a quick couple of car lengths on Alex ZANARDI and will pick up the battle between Jimmy Vasser and Bobby Rahal, 7th and 8th.
Bob, unlike a stock car where you'll see him run around there nose to tail and taking advantage of that draft, in these cars, even though the draft will pull them a little bit, it disturbs the air so much, it affects it over the wings and will upset the balance of the car. So these guys will take a quick tow down the straightaways from them, but then they quickly want to dart out and make a move and get into the corner with clean air.
Here come Patrick Carpentier and Dario Franchitti, the 2 rookies battling for the Rookie of the Year honors. Carpentier has it. Franchitti coming off a great weekend at Toronto, his first career PPG Kart World Series pole, and his first for car owner Carl Hogan. It all came apart in the first corner for him. Now here's Michael Andretti moving. That's Parker Johnstone on the right, running 4th. Andretti is flying.
Now, if you're looking at this at home, you think, how come Michael Andretti has so much more power than Parker or Jimmy Vasser or anybody? That's not the power, that's the handling. His car is working so well in the turns that he's able to carry more speed off of the corner and slingshot those guys down the straightaway.
And of course, much of this racetrack in Michigan is corners. Right now, Michael's on the only real straightaway. From turn 3 all the way around, coming out of turn 2, it's all left-hand turn. We'll be back with more from Michigan Speedway in a moment. We are back in Michigan at the U.S. 500, but coming up next on ABC Sports, great golf action. The Senior British Open from Portrush, Northern Ireland. John Bland, the leader after 3 rounds. Final round coverage coming up next after auto racing here on ABC Sports. Michigan racer, the dean of active drivers in the PPG Kart World Series, and noted golfer Bobby Rahal runs in 10th place. And he has another reason for hoping this 500-miler ends soon. He's off for a week of golf, a golfer's dream in England and Scotland. He's going to play Troon, St. Andrews, 5 terrific, legendary courses in the space of a week. And we'll see if his handicap is still 9 when he gets back. Michael Andretti continues his march. Lee White on the radio. Yellow flag is out, so he'll hold his position.
We're gonna
debris in turn 3, we are told. Michael Andretti has taken almost 3 full seconds off the race leader in 3 laps.
The car now is the car. Not bad. 10-4, not bad.
I should say so.
I'll tell you what, he's the happiest guy out there because his car is working great.
So another break, time to crack the visor, get a little air into the helmet.
Bob, when they open the pits, it's going to be interesting because Gugelmin and Andretti are in adjacent pits. So these two teams know that Andretti is coming with a big rush, and whoever gets out of the pits first could well be leading this race.
There you see the gap from Mauricio Gugelmin on the left to Scott Pruett. Just behind Pruett is Andretti. Big Mo, littler than he was a year ago. He's dropped about 40 pounds during the offseason. He's going to lose some weight today in this heat. The pits are now open. Let's see if the race leader takes to the entrance. They're still on the backstretch.
He's going to have a little tougher entry into the pits because he's just beyond Michael, so he has to get around Michael's crew and tires and everything. Of course, Michael has a more difficult exit because then he has to get around Big Mo's team to get out.
And here they come in a group. We'll try to follow the top 3 cars, Gugelmin, Pruett, and Andretti, through their stops. And here they go. A triple split view. See who comes to a stop first, who leaves first.
Almost exactly the same time as Pruett, Gary Gerald, Andretti, and Gugelmin came to a stop.
Everything routine for Gugelmin. Now his teammate Blundell comes in ahead of him to cut off the angle there. We're watching Andretti as well.
Scott Pruett is done. Oh, away.
Very close. Just ahead of Pruett. Wheel to wheel. Advantage Andretti.
Michael Andretti hits the blend line first, so he will come out in the race lead. What a remarkable change of position in the pits. We'll be back to Michigan Speedway after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Honda Helicam high over Michigan Speedway. You see the field under caution here. Second caution of the day at the US 500. Bob Varsha and Danny Sullivan with you. Gary Gerald and Jack Arute down in the pits. Now 2 of the cars are going to be penalized as a result of the pit action we witnessed just before the break. Alex Zanardi and Paul Tracy each were judged to have driven over air hoses in the pits. They will be called in for a drive-through pit lane penalty. There you see Zanardi, driven extremely well in the last 2 stops. A winner at Cleveland, second at Toronto. And after an up and down first half of the season, he is once again firmly in the championship picture in second place. Jack Arute.
Bob, you're looking at Sandro Morrow, who is one of the crew members for Davis Racing and Dennis Vitolo. It seems that what happened during that scurry of pit stops, Sandro stepped back away from the cars and began to exit, and he literally was run over his rear heel on the right side by another car exiting a pit further down towards turn 4. He says that he's okay. His ankle doesn't look proper, so the medicos are going to remove him to the infield care center for further x-rays and inspection.
And that raises an interesting point, Jack Arute. Earlier, Gary Gerald took us on a trip through the CART Traveling Medical Center. That center is not just there for the drivers. It's there for the crews and virtually any member of the PPG CART World Series family on a race weekend.
Believe it or not, Bob, what happens is everybody that travels as part of the CART fraternity, they literally can use them as their primary care physician.
Gary Gerald, what have you got?
Well, Greg Moore was in a situation earlier where he came into the pits. They changed all the electronic components and got him back out. Well, apparently things still weren't running properly. He came in, has abandoned the race. He had no comment for anyone, just jumped on his scooter, shook his head, and headed back for the transporter. Keep in mind, he came in as one of the players in the points championship. He was number 4 coming in. So this is a devastating turn of events for the young Canadian driver in terms of his championship hopes.
Well, that's certainly the downside of the build-up to a 500-mile race. If you're out early, the disappointment is that much greater. Running up front right now, Andre Ribeiro, Brazilian and a proven winner on the PPG CART World Series. He hasn't pitted since lap 17. That's why he finds himself on point now as the rest of the front runners pit. The order is Andre Ribeiro, Michael Andretti second, Mauricio Gugelmin third, Scott Pruett fourth, Raul Boesel fifth, followed by Patrick Carpentier, Paul Tracy, Dario Franchitti, Mark Blundell, and Adrian Fernandez rounds out the top 10, followed by Alonso Jr., Gualter Salas, Alex Zanardi, Bobby Rahal, Brian Herta, Jimmy Vasser, and Parker Johnstone. Lights are out on the safety car. About half a lap from the green flag to get the US 500 back underway. Third in line there, you see the bright lime green helmet, the red and white car of Richie Hearn. Ralph's Food for Less Lola continuing to try to work with that Lola chassis, make it into a contending car. Up come the revs as Andre Ribeiro leads the field off the turn before a crowd estimated at more than 80,000 here at Michigan Speedway. We're back underway on lap 41. After pit stops, we'll see if Michael Andretti still has the combination. See very little steering input. From the pit lane is that Parker Johnstone, currently shown 17, will be called in for a penalty. Apparently it was his car that struck the crew member whom Jack spoke about a moment ago. It'll be a drive-through penalty as Michael Andretti pulls up behind his teammate Christian Fittipaldi. Here come the cars that we mentioned penalized earlier. Paul Tracy, Alex Zanardi in the red machine. They have to come through at the pit lane speed limit of 80 miles per hour.
And on a lap, it only takes 30 seconds for these cars to do when they're doing speeds of over 225 miles an hour. You come through at 80 miles an hour, you lose a lot of ground.
Michael Andretti goes by his teammate. A lap down. Interesting thing about Tracy and Zanardi bidding together, they are 1 and 2 in the PPG Cup Championship coming into the weekend. Now, there are the two Brahma teammates, Pruett and Boesel, running 4th and 5th, coming up to put a lap on Richie Hearn. That's Dario Franchitti to the right of your screen. He is running in 6th place, just behind Boesel. So he'll be closing up behind the Brazilian, perhaps to make a move of his own.
Not bad for a rookie in his first 500-mile race.
And his first visit to the high banks of Michigan Speedway. Banked 18 degrees in the turns, 12 degrees at the tri-oval, the start-finish line. And it measured out at 2 miles, almost to the foot.
And you see how long they're in the corners. Straightaways are fairly short, long in the corners. You'll see how many G's they're pulling here.
Lateral G-force, the number in the middle of our telemetry screen, and look at that speedometer pegging just under 240. Now the G-forces even out as he's on the backstretch, and then extending again as they build to 3 G's and more in the turns.
Actually, you see it goes solid right there. It actually goes up to almost 4 G's, but the meter only goes to 3 G's, and they're doing this for 250 laps at both ends. It's a long time in pulling that kind of G-force.
Absolutely. I once spoke with Rick Mears about running on the ovals, and I talked about the Formula One series, how the drivers complained about hitting 4 G's occasionally. He said let him try it for 3 hours on a hot afternoon. So Andre Ribeiro out the bottom of your screen. Here comes the second place car of Michael Andretti.
Now see how Michael's working down there low. He's working that low group. His car is handling tremendously well if he can run down there that tight.
What is the shadow under the front wing? The suspension moves hardly at all. Yet the shadow shimmers under that front wing. Gives you an idea of how smooth the racetrack here at Michigan.
Look how gentle his hands are. He takes a little pressure off of him now. He'll firm his grip up as he enters through 3. Really gets loaded. Just breathing the engine there just a little bit. Back hard on the power.
Flashing across the start-finish line through the timers.
Setting up again for turn 1. Sorry, Bob. Now he firms up that grip. This is a little tighter corner at this end than it is down at the other end.
The bad news for Michael is he is losing time to the race leader. Andre Ribeiro now 4.1 seconds ahead of Michael Andretti. Now let's check out his speed. You saw his last lap average speed. The numbers in yellow around the racetrack diagram are the actual trap speeds. At the bottom of your screen, the start finish, exiting 2 at 237 miles an hour, entering 3 at 211. And the white numbers are his average speeds through those intervals between the speed traps. And they change as Michael completes another lap. But he continues to lose a couple of tenths with each lap to race leader Andre Ribeiro. He is the hot hand right now at Michigan. We're back live at Michigan Speedway. Bob Varsha and Danny Sullivan with you on a steamy, hot July day. There's Mauricio Gugelmin, who came into the last round of pit stops with the race lead. He presently runs in third spot behind Andre Ribeiro and Michael Andretti. Coming up behind the car of Max Pappas. Now here's a look at where our top 3 drivers, Ribeiro, Andretti, and Gugelmin, stand in relation to their next fuel window in the pits. The numbers across the bottom of the graphic show the number of laps since the last stop. Andre Ribeiro is right. Oh, and Parker Johnstone is hard into the wall on the backstretch. A heavy impact for Johnstone.
Coming off turn 2, he flipped the steering wheel out there.
Has his visor up as well.
He's trying to extract himself from the car. Sometimes when that's happened, you pinch a little bit of the bodywork into the car, and it can catch his suit and just hang him up a little bit, but he was quickly out.
What a disappointment for Johnstone. From Brush Prairie, Washington, right on the banks of the Columbia River, not far from the Portland International Raceway, where we visit with the series. Driving for the former championship team owner, Barry Green. Stretching that leg a little bit.
When he makes contact with the wall, they will take him back to the infield medical center, the CART medical center, and check him over. That's a rule. Anytime you make contact on an oval track, you have to go to the CART medical center and just have a check over.
And I guarantee it's a lot cooler in there. Let's take another look.
All right, he looks like he just got up there in the gray in the middle of turn 1 and 2. Got up in the gray. Once you get up there, it's so hard to get it back. You're going so fast through those cars. You're doing 225 miles an hour in there. And you get up there in that gray, and there's marbles up there. It's slippery. There's a lot of dust. Not much control.
Danny, Parker Johnstone had an interesting quote about this place and those speeds. He said it's like you're in a fishbowl, and the challenge is to stay in it. Obviously, he didn't meet that challenge in this incident.
Gary, I had the pleasure of going over and standing on the outside of the wall at turn 2 during a practice on Friday, and it is amazing the speeds that they come through there. And it's amazing that they can have an accident at those speeds and get up and walk out of the car. I mean, I think that's a real testament to the safety issues and the way they've developed these cars over the years and incorporated what they can.
All of the cars carry onboard data recorders that measure various stresses in the event of an accident, and this was a big one.
You can see him in the top of your screen, just up there in the gray. See, he's in the gray, he can't do anything. He doesn't have any control when he's in there.
Boy, that was huge. Be interesting to see what the G-forces were in that wreck, but he is out of the car and appears to be okay. Jackaroo.
Bob, this is very, very fortuitous for Andre Ribeiro, your leader. The report during the caution as we ride with Andre was that he is out of 3rd gear, he's out of 6th gear, he's out of 4th gear. All he literally has got is 5th gear. And if he had to make this stop under green flag conditions, it could be disaster. But the crew is awaiting his presence on pit road. They have already huddled and said, after we finish the service, go to the back of the car, we'll have to push Andre off.
You can see right here on the shot, Jackie's in the car. He's moving the gear lever around, trying to get something. He's really working that gear lever, trying to get some gear so he can get in. The difficult part is going to be getting out in 5th gear.
And Danny, now he reports he has no gear, nothing. That's why he was so slow. It remains to be seen. The crew still realizes that it must go to work. So they're changing all 4 tires. Now they've killed the engine.
Michael Andretti, this time he's got the jump on Gugelmin again. It's a drag race. Andretti is now 2-0 against Gugelmin on pit exit.
Oh, the little battles that make up the war-winning effort.
Bob, let me tell you, though, what's going to happen. Those crews are going to get frustrated with that. They're sitting there going, wait a minute, he's been here twice, and he's got beaten out twice. We've got to pick up the pace here. We've got to help our driver. And Michael's crew's over there going, hey, Michael, we can give you a spot anytime you need it.
Meanwhile, there is Andre Ribeiro, and you can see the story of his day in his face. He was up on the lead, and there is Jimmy Vasser being pushed back to his pit stall. Ribeiro, with that stretch in the lead, moved up to 6th in all-time Michigan Speedway lap leader standings, with 235 laps out front in the last 4 races here at Michigan. Michael is the leader in those standings with 440 laps led.
It looks as if Jimmy stalled his car. It brought him back into the pit box to get him going. Now they're going to try to push start him, bump him out of there. See, he's got his hand on the gear lever down the right corner of your screen. He can't get it, and if he goes too far, they can't pull him back. He has to do it in, I believe it's 2 pit boxes. They have to get him started.
So the woes continue for the defending champion at the US 500. A year ago, Jimmy Vasser started on pole, survived a 12-car wreck at the green flag, and won the race. For Andre Ribeiro, thumb in the air, but the disappointment must be bitter. Side pods coming off. We'll be back to Michigan. Back at Michigan, here's a program note. Thursday, August 14th, ABC Sports will broadcast Holyfield versus Tyson 2. That's a new date, so make a note of it. See one of the most talked about heavyweight championship fights ever. Holyfield versus Tyson 2, Thursday, August 14th at 10 o'clock Eastern on ABC Sports. Here at Michigan, there you see the wreck of Parker Johnstone's car being hauled away, but there's action in the pits as well. Here's Gary Gerald.
The defending champion of this race, Jimmy Vasser, is out of the competition. What happened as you tried to exit the pits?
Just had some gearbox problems. Just wouldn't go into gear. Just kind of seized up, locked up there. And it's pretty unfortunate. We were cruising around with a pretty decent car. Alex had a problem in the first pit, come through my box, and we lost a lot of spaces there. But I was confident with the car. We were settling in. 500 miles, you got to set the car up to be there at the end, and it's just unfortunate for the whole team and Target and all that. I think we had a pretty good car today.
This has really been a star-crossed season in contrast to that great ride that you had last year in winning the championship. How tough is that to deal with now, Jimmy?
Well, it's disappointing, no doubt about it, but you got to be prepared to take the ups and downs in motor racing. Things like this happen, really, that they're out of your control, and all you can do is load up and come back swinging the next weekend.
We're hearing talk that maybe you'll be making a change in teams for 1998. Anything you could share along those lines?
Right now, I believe I'll probably be here for one more year. But like I said to Marlowe the other night in the RPM Tonight telecast, I was just thinking maybe, I've been here for 3 years, and that'll be 4. It might be time for me to look around and maybe find some new surroundings, try something new.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Well, a hero a year ago. Gauge goes back to 0 for the defending champion here at the US 500. Meanwhile, things have been looking up lately for that man, Mark Blundell. He and his family have had their hands full these past few weeks, moving from their homeland in Great Britain to their new digs in Scottsdale, Arizona. Thus far, 1997 has been a very different year than 1996 in the life of a man his Pac West team calls Billy. In his second season in kart, Mark Blundell has come into his own, claiming his first career win at Portland in the closest finish in history. That helps erase the memories of last year, spent living far from home and hurting.
Rio was tough for me. It was a big accident, only the second race into the season. Left me with injuries and out of the championship for 3 races and a few bad memories. And it was already difficult to adjust because I was coming into a new culture, new environment. I was all missing my family, didn't have anybody around me, so I didn't have much stability. As a driver, I need that stability of my family around me. It's very tough to operate when your children and wife are 5,000 miles away.
On the home front, Mark and wife Deborah have moved their sons Mark Jr. and Callum from the UK to the sunshine of Arizona. And make no mistake, Mark Blundell is a family man.
I think from the point of view that it put a bit of extra pressure on me to go and do well and, bring some pennies back home, but it just puts a different perspective on life. We've got responsibilities now, and I feel very proud to be a dad and proud to be able to take my sons out and enjoy them. But at the same point, maybe it's kept me more stable and at times I could have been a lot more unstable as an individual young man, probably. But you know, I'm very happy with family life. It suits me, and I think it's good for my career.
10th in the PPG Cup coming into the weekend with 56 points to the 109 for Paul Tracy. But Mark Blundell has won twice. He has momentum on his side. He could be a factor before this series is over. He presently runs in 12th place. Oh, we have a moment. Let's get down to Jack Arute in the pits.
Oh, we've documented Andre Ribeiro's problems with a faulty gearbox. Andre, the disappointment, you led this thing.
Well, there's no question that our car was just perfect. We definitely made everything right again. The car was just very good on race rhythm, but unfortunately we had this problem. We'll be back here. We had some problems here. We came back, we won. We'll come back.
Now you have a bigger smile than normal because you've got that Reynard, despite the fact that your teammate Adrian Fernandez is still saddled with a Lola. You gotta like the idea of finishing the season with that Renard.
Well, for sure it's a huge disappointment when you have a good car to be able to win, and then you have this problem, you have to stop. But of course, we are able to be competitive, and this is the main thing right now for us.
Well, as Andre Ribeiro's retired, we see that coming in, as they call dead stick, Gary Gerald, is Mauricio Gugelmin with no power. But let's check in with you.
Yeah, we understand from the crew that it is engine failure, and so he'll be coming into this end of the south end of the pits here momentarily. Also updating the situation now for Scott Pruett and the Brahma team. They're frankly wondering why these other teams came in so early. Their window of opportunity is still good for another 16 to 18 laps. They've elected to stay out with both of their drivers, Pruett and BOESEL. And problems for Michael Andretti. We understand that there's something that relates to the weight jacker that has got him very, very concerned. Danny Sullivan has had experience with weight jackers. Maybe you can relate to what Michael is experiencing at this point.
Gary, if I knew exactly what the problem is, but the weight jacker, all it does is move the weight from the right side to the left, back and forth, so they can alter the balance of the car. Now, if that's moving and locking in and he can't do anything about it, that's a big problem because it'll be changing the balance of the car while he's driving.
Well, that's what I understand, Danny, that apparently it's something that they can only address in the pits. They won't be able to impact the handling or change the weight while the car is on the track. So it's apparently a significant concern.
Gary, welcome to 500-mile racing. This is what Michigan's all about. This is a tough place on cars and equipment.
We ride with Gilles de Ferran as he takes a gear, listening for perhaps a sour engine note. Getting word from some of the corners out on the racetrack that the engine sounds odd. Okay right now.
And I think he'd be talking on the radio. Of course, sometimes they can load up while you're driving around that slow.
Safety car is pulling ahead of the race leader, Scott Pruett, with his teammate Raul Boesel just behind him as we prepare to go green. There's Michael Andretti, third in the race, but a couple of cars behind the race leaders on the track. Up to speed they come. Pruett leads off the corner and opens up a big lead over his teammate as we restart lap 66. Michael trying to get by Dennis Vitolo in the yellow car to the right.
Saw him reach down there and take another gear, shifting up through there to get the gear he wanted. Oh, he'll have to have lift when Dennis moved down like that. That's Bobby Rahal.
Understand car number 64 will be getting a black flag. 64 is Arndt Meyer, the young German, in his first visit to the high banks at Michigan and 500-mile racing. Now his penalty is for passing the safety car, and he will be docked a lap. The last thing he needs. He's presently shown in 24th and 4 laps down. He will stop for 32 seconds in the pits to lose that lap while the field goes by. You saw a slight splash of fluids out there of what was the scene of Parker Johnstone's accident. Now Patrick Compartier goes down underneath Dennis Vitolo.
Mauricio Gugelmin, Bob, has refired the engine after they changed electronic components. He now leaves and goes back on course after a long stop, but at least he's got a chance to continue to run.
Now this is a battle. Alex Zanardi and Patrick Carpentier, 6th and 7th. Carpentier has not tested at this racetrack with the Bettenhausen Alumax team. So that has been an eye-opener for him as well. Keeping quick off the car, right off the truck when they got here. Right now he runs in 7th. Now there's Richie Hearn. Appears he will climb out of his Lola. The frustration continues for another of the Lola teams. I spoke with John Della Pena, the car owner, this weekend, and he says there is nothing they can do. They cannot change chassis now. There are simply no more Reynards to be had out there. Of course, you cannot buy a Penske. You're not likely to get a Swift this year. There's Al Unser Jr., Alex Zanardi going wheel to wheel, and Zanardi motors by Unser. Recall that 2 weeks ago in Cleveland, at the start of a 3-race in his many weekend string, Zanardi was penalized at the beginning of the race for entering the pits while they were closed. But he topped off his tank, got ahead on pit stops, and somehow came from dead last in the field to win.
Jimmy Vasser made a very important statement in that interview earlier. He said you've got to develop the car all the way through the race and be there at the end. You can have a fast car in the early part of the race, but you have to stay on the lead lap for the first 400 miles and be there at the end, be able to race that last 100 miles with a strong car.
We are a long way from that point. A lot of racing still to come. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Live at Michigan Speedway, we have a new race leader, and Michael Andretti, despite what we suspect were mechanical problems on that car, goes down low. This is how it happened as he went by Scott Pruett as they got around Arndt Meyer.
When he pulled down, that was so close.
And Michael motors by in the lead. Now let's view that from the perspective of Michael's onboard camera.
We're on the back straightaway here. We're going into turn 3. He's going to pass him coming off 4. He's down there low, has to lift. Scott's down there, moved down a little bit, now side by side.
Oh, Pruett.
That is close racing, and that's being able to race with a guy that's a true professional.
Back to live action now. And smoke from the back of the race leader's car. Michael Andretti, a plume of smoke from the right rear of the engine compartment.
Okay, then I'm coming in. And it looks terminal. Let's bring it in.
There you hear the radio crewing from the pits. They said it looks terminal. They're going to bring it in. They suspect that it's an engine that's gone away entirely, or is about to be gone entirely.
We climb aboard with Bobby Rahal, who will move up into the 3rd spot as a result of the misfortune suffered by that man, Michael Andretti.
Or no, it's the gearbox. It's the gearbox. They can't get it out of gear. Okay, 10-4. Let's put the toe tires on it and get the quick jack, because it's not going to be able to get it out of gear.
That was Tim Bumps on the radio there. That was his crew chief.
And now we have a yellow flag as Michael Andretti unhooks and prepares to climb out. Officials have called for a track inspection for debris. The pits are closed.
Bob, a lot of people are wondering why gearboxes. Why are we having this run of gearboxes? Because they don't shift that much except to get out and get up to speed. But once they put it in that gear, there's a tremendous amount of load that goes into that gearbox where they're pulling 4 Gs in the corner. They're on the power almost flat out the whole way around that. All of that going into those gears, that's tough on the box.
Crew goes to work. You heard them say we'll put the toe tires on it. Pull it back. Get ready to fight another day. 2 weeks from now at Mid-Ohio. Meanwhile, other teams step into the pit lane to prepare for service. The leader and the field have been taken up by the safety car, and the pits are now open. Down to Gary Gerald.
Michael Andretti, that car was just flying. Tell me what happened here in this last few laps.
Gearbox. Something in the gearbox froze up.
We had heard a radio report earlier that there was also a concern about the weight jacker. Were you dealing with two problems then?
Yeah, but that wasn't a major one. I think it was okay. I think it was working. It wouldn't show it on the dash. But I mean, the car was just flawless. I mean, just totally in control right from the word go, and really disappointing. I mean, you know, we deserve this one. We deserve to win this one.
From yesterday when you qualified 19th to make this charge up today, what did you do to get the improvement in the car?
Really nothing. The car was like that all weekend. It just, when we were by ourselves, it wasn't real fast, but in traffic it was really good. So, you know, we were working on the race, and it paid off.
Thank you, Michael. Jack?
Well, Gary, as we watch the top three drivers, their crews have gone to work. Bobby Rahal is already out, but Scott Pruett also will follow Rahal, and Raul Boesel will lose some ground to Patrick Carpentier.
What a performance for Bobby Rahal's pit crew. He comes back out on the racetrack with fuel and tires in great position for the restart. 8 cars officially out of the race. P.J. Jones, Greg Moore, Adrian Fernandez, Parker Johnstone in a crash, Jimmy Vasser, Andre Ribeiro, Richie Hearn, and now Michael Andretti, who came from 19th on the starting grid to lead the race before it all came apart.
Bob, remember, on pit roads, you're allowed to use a speed limit of 85 miles an hour. 80 miles an hour is around the area that they run. But take a look at the width of pit road. What happens is after you pull out of the concrete area, which is your pit stall, you have literally 2.5 lanes to be able to maneuver in. So what drivers do is they actually pull out into the far lane and try and block someone closing in on them.
The race goes on in the pits as well as out on the racetrack. We'll take a break and return for more live coverage of the US 500. Stay with us.
This Ford Fact is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealers. Have you driven a Ford lately? We've all heard of the black boxes on aircraft, which of course is the flight data recorder that's used in the event of an accident. Well, in the CART series, every Indy car carries something similar known as an impact data recorder. Now, although it's not new to the series, new for 1997 is that it's powered by the car's battery source, located underneath the driver's legs, and becomes a permanent fixture. Now, it measures an impact in 3 different areas: fore and aft, side to side, and of course up and down. And it does so at a rate of 2,200 times a second. Now, in the event of an accident, you can download the information to a computer and get a printout that shows you all those 3 axes and how high the G's were. Now, not only can you design safer race cars with this information, but Ford is incorporating it into its street car program, so hopefully it will help the street car safety program as well.
But on Saturday, August 2nd, ABC Sports bring you the stars of NASCAR as they invade the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You can see the Brickyard 400 live at 1 o'clock Eastern on ABC. Then it's the International Race of Champions from the brand spanking new California Motor Speedway. 3rd of 4 races in IROC 21. You will not believe California Speedway until you see it. Saturday, 4:30 Eastern on ABC. Pace car heads for the pit lane. Off the turn they come, and Dario Franchitti, who did not stop under the yellow flag in our most recent round of pit stops, assumes the lead at the US 500 on lap 86. Bobby Rahal runs second in the blue and white machine. Alex Zanardi is third, Scott Pruett fourth, Patrick Carpentier fifth. So our 2 contenders for the Rookie of the Year are first and fifth in the race. There you see Bobby Rahal, and then Zanardi. Blue car, Max Pappas, his laps, several laps down. Top 3 right there. Excuse me, that's Christian Fittipaldi up first. Then Bobby Rahal running second behind Dario. There goes Dario out the top of your screen. The view from Christian's car as Bobby Rahal motors by. His way. Gary Gerald is standing by with Barry Green.
Car
car owner for Parker Johnstone. You had a chance to talk to Parker over at the safety center. Can you update his condition?
Yeah, Gary, I just came from the on-track hospital. He's fine. He's got some bruises on his ankle and his arm. Took a pretty good whack to the head. A small cut above his eye. We had a right front tire go down. We must have cut it or something. Went down pretty quick, and the tire came apart. And the tread of the tire came up and took his visor off and just cut him a little bit. He's fine. He's out of the hospital now, and car's hurt pretty badly, unfortunately.
Thanks for the update, Jack.
Well, Gary, we've got Richie Hearn overheating, put you out of the race, Richie. How frustrating was this day for you?
Well, it's quite frustrating. We've had a lot of bad luck, especially the last 3 races. We've gone out early, and unfortunately, the car seemed to work good right at the beginning, but then it started to deteriorate, and it started going really loose on me, and then we had an overheating problem, which is probably for the best, I guess.
Now, for our viewers, you're still saddled with a Lola chassis, but we understand that John Della Penna may have located a 1996 Reynard. What's the story?
Well, yeah, he's located one. Hopefully we'll have that for the next race. We've been working our butts off trying to make this car work, and it's really not fair to the crew and the sponsors if we keep running like this. So we had to find a solution.
And they think they found one, Bob. Look for the 96 Reynard at the next event.
All right, thank Jack. Earlier I mentioned that John Della Penna, Richie Hearn's car owner, could not find a current Reynard, so it looks like he'll step back a year, and sad to say, probably still make an improvement in performance for the team. The Lola has been a handful this year.
I talked to the guys at Reynard, and they said the problem was he wanted to build a car from spare parts of 1997. They said the problem is if we sell them those parts, then we've got no parts for our regular customers who have been with us all season long if something goes wrong toward the end of the season.
This is the battle for 5th place. We're watching Al Unser Jr. being chased by Patrick Carpentier. Wide views give you some idea of how quickly these cars are moving as they flash by huge objects like grandstands in the background.
Al Unser Jr.'s had a very busy day. He started off with an IROC practice, then had his final IndyCar practice, then did the IROC race, and now we see him out here trying to go 500 miles.
Little Al drove the whole race. Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi also kept to that schedule, but they fell to the back of the IROC finale fairly early on. Now Unser Jr. closes up on Scott Pruett. Good competitive run for Al Unser Jr., who hasn't seen many of them this year. This is for 4th place. Pruett has it. Unser Jr. wants it. But from that camera perspective, it certainly makes the track look rough.
This track has been rough over the years, but Roger Penske and his organization has done a tremendous job when it gets that way of peeling it up and repaving it.
Battle for the lead. Bobby Rahal goes up high over Dario Franchitti and sweeps past into the lead as they head for the backstretch. This on lap 94 of 250 laps.
Keep in mind that Bobby Rahal's never won a 500-mile race at this particular track. He would love to be able to do it. He's won 3 races here at shorter distances many years ago. This is one of those challenges that he has wanted to accept and get for a long time. And right now, his crew is loving the fact that he's gone to #1.
Bobby Rahal trying to end a streak of winless races for him that now totals 84, if I'm not mistaken, and counting.
And guys, remember, Dario Franchitti and the Hogan Racing team have yet to come onto pit road. The last that we heard, look for him around the halfway mark, 100 plus or minus 1 lap.
Jack, I want to tell you, though, the halfway mark's 125 laps.
Well, I got hit in the head, Danny, in that race car crash, and I forgot my man.
Well, I'm just hoping they're not thinking about going 125 laps. If they are, they got an awful big tank in that car.
Well, it's a good thing I said 100 then.
How do the fortunes of the drivers ebb and flow in the course of a 500-mile race? Al Unser Jr. just went by Mauricio Gugelmin and lapped him. Gugelmin, who led this race in the early going, now shown 19th.
I believe what we're seeing there, though, is Big Mo being very professional. He's laps down, These guys are racing for the lead. He doesn't want to get in the way. He's not going to slow them down. It's like, hey, you guys are racing for the front. Have at it.
The upper left of your screen, you see the speeds of the race cars in average lap speed at the line. Look at the numbers, 223 miles an hour plus. Now the gaps in time to the race leader. The order is RAUL, Franchitti, ZANARDI, PRUETT, Unser Jr., Carpentier, BOESEL, Blundell, Tracy, and Gilles de Ferran rounds out the top 10. Brian Herta runs 11th. Walter Salas, the Brazilian rookie, 12th. Oops, Unser Jr. showing smoke. Oh no, could this be another disappointment for Unser Jr.?
Oh, look at the fluid coming out of there. That's the overflow. He's pouring liquid out of there. That'll be from the radiators.
Now, if that had happened at speed, it could be extremely dangerous. We see it again, the blue smoke.
We copy, we're working on it. Stay out then, stay out.
Teams on the radio to their crews, anticipating. And Unser Jr. turns off. We anticipated, that crew evidently anticipated a yellow flag, but they do not get one. We are still under green as Unser Jr. becomes the 9th car to drop out of the race. Look at the trail of fluid.
And typical of Unser Jr. thinking about his other competitors, very professional, found a good safe spot, didn't worry about getting towed into the pits, just pulled off there, went right to the safety trucks, make sure there wasn't any fire.
So that will elevate the drivers behind him one place. Brian Herta at the middle of your screen. Herta runs in 10th. At this point running just behind Christian Fittipaldi, but they are not battling for a position. Fittipaldi is 12th. 100 laps complete. And the day is only beginning. There's Walter Salas for Davis Racing. Brian Herta down low, right on the white line. The Brazilian rookie Salas up high. Salas's experience here at Michigan has been a good example of how they bring rookies along. He had driven in the Indy Lights Series here at Michigan, but he said the enormous speed difference to an Indy car required him to really sneak up on what the car could do at a place like this, adding a little speed with lap after lap.
Dario Franchitti has come onto pit road. He's in the first stall as you exit onto pit road. His crew has gone to work. Naturally, they're going to take out 35 gallons of methanol and exchange the Firestone tires. They're also cleaning out the debris from the radiator tunnels, and they've adjusted the front wing. But the one crew member had made an adjustment downward, and then a second crew member did it, and they've stalled the engine. They've stalled the engine. Now they're going to have to pull it all the way back and put the off-board starter back in. This is a tough break for Carl Hogan and this team.
Jack, of course, one of the biggest problems, this is under a green flag situation, so he's really losing ground.
And Danny, I think his problem is in the gearbox. There's something wrong with this gearbox as well. You can see the disappointment on Carl Hogan's face as they roll his car back one more time. The Scotsman Dario Franchitti, I believe, is done for the day.
The way that crew was walking, Jack, they looked awful dejected.
To the battle for third place, Scott Pruett in the bright yellow and orange machine to the left of your screen. Patrick Carpentier to the right, driving for Tony Bettenhausen. Talk about a battle between teams owned by great figures in the sport. Pat Patrick owns Scott Pruett's car. As I mentioned, Tony Bettenhausen, Patrick Carpentier's. Across the start-finish line they come. Bobby Rahal in the race lead. The 8th time Rahal has led a 500-miler at Michigan. We'll take a break and return with more live from Michigan Speedway. Stand by for more of the US 500.
Michael came onto the scene in IndyCar.
Budweiser, the classic American lager. MCI, is this a great time or what? American Honda, maker of fine quality automobiles, motorcycles, and power equipment. And Craftsman, available at Sears and Sears hardware stores. Craftsman makes anything possible.
action continues in the US 500. There is Scott Pruett in the bright orange car, middle of your screen. To the right is Patrick Carpentier. They are third and fourth. While we're away, they have gone wheel to wheel for a couple of laps, and Carpentier is still right there on Pruett's gearbox. Going by Juan Fangio, one of Dan Gurney's Eagles. Reynard chassis from All-American Racers, Toyota Power. His teammate is already out of the race. Big-time engine meltdown.
Tell you, running alongside Patrick there, he didn't look like he was that slow, that Toyota Power.
Fittipaldi goes out the bottom of your screen, then Pruett. Bobby Rahal leads the race. Alex Zanardi second, Scott Pruett third, Patrick Carpentier fourth, then Raul Boesel, Mark Blundell, and Paul Tracy. Up and around Christian Fittipaldi's Swift goes Scott Pruett.
Pulled out a little bit of a lead. He was dicing there with Patrick Carpentier, but he's pulled out just a little lead on him.
Carpentier uses the toe from Fittipaldi while he can and comes out. It might not have been the best place to pull out for a pass unless he thought he was closing too quickly.
Well, again, Christian is doing a very professional job. These guys are racing for positions up there. They're way down. Christian's way down in the field. He's being very professional, giving him the faster line.
Let's update today's stories. The heat, we have a thin cloud cover that's come over the racetrack. That may bring the temperatures down a little bit. Engines, well, most of the problems we've seen thus far appear to be gearbox related. No problems that we're aware of from the tires. And the points race, as things currently stand, Paul Tracy, the points leader, runs 7th. Alex Zanardi, just 3 points behind Tracy for the championship, is in 2nd. And Michael Andretti, who came into the race 3rd in points, is out. That will be a bitter pill for him. To the battle for 8th place. Gilles de Ferran on the left. Brian Herta on the right. Herta goes low beneath the Brazilian. Looked fairly easy.
Since we had that report from Barry Green about Parker Johnstone's incident, believing they cut down a tire, I talked with Al Spire, director of racing for Firestone. He's confirmed that at least 3 instances they believe they've suffered cut tires. One for Zanardi, one for Ribeiro, and the one for Parker Johnstone. Obviously, they don't know where the debris has come from, but that's the only problem that the Firestone engineers are reporting at this time.
Thank you, Gary. That's right, I'd forgotten that. It appears to be a tire problem that put Parker Johnstone into the wall. Ride with Bobby Rahal on the lead, and just ahead of him, Walter Salas. We spoke about Salas earlier.
On the right front only.
Now picture this. Bobby Rahal's running along here about 230 miles an hour. We're going through turn 1. Imagine that right front tire right at this point cutting down and losing grip. Pretty scary thought, isn't it?
And delaminating the way we understand Barry Green to say that it did. Alex Zanardi goes by Walter Salas, who was the last unlapped car on the lead lap. 9 cars remain on the lead lap as Alex Zanardi continues his pursuit of Bobby Rahal. That's Michel Jourdain Jr. in the green car between them.
Of course, the radio transmitting we've been hearing is them telling Bobby about 5 laps, about 3 laps. That's when they're going to be in their pit window. That's when they're going to make a pit stop.
Green flag pit stop for Patrick Carpentier in the Alumax pits.
Look at his rear wheels are spinning. Stop that.
And he heats them up like a marshmallow. It's Patrick Carpentier, who had no testing at this racetrack with the Bettenhausen team before they came here this weekend. They have been hooked up and running hard. While up front, Bobby Rahal continues on his way with a green flag stop, it would appear, in his future.
Hear the engine tone change there where he just breathes it going in. He's going to come into the pits. See the glow in the right front tire every now and again. We saw just a little glow. I don't know if anybody picked that up, where just the brakes were lighting up a little bit there. Because don't forget, they're stone cold. He's been running around at 225 miles an hour, never touching them.
There's a good view at something Bobby Rahal probably wants as much as he wants fuel and tires, a cool drink.
We'll watch for that wing change up front. Haven't seen it. Gone. 12.5 seconds. Pretty good action here.
Stop, Bob. Stay under the line. Stay under the line.
And through the tire smoke, the launch of another car ahead of him.
They also said stay under the line. That's the yellow line that you see right there. He can't get above that line or you can suffer a penalty.
Track is marked where the drivers are allowed to move up above the line. Scott Pruett is in. Jackaroo.
And Scott Pruett pulls in very, very sharply to the service of his crew. Now, they've been talking about how they should exit because they're expecting Alex Zanardi to be pulling in as he pulls away. They're making a wing adjustment in the front of the car, and Pruett is away in 13 seconds, and we're still waiting for Zanardi, but Raul Boesel, his teammate, is having problems. And here comes Zanardi. Boesel having gearbox problems, not getting in, almost collides with Zanardi. Zanardi's team goes to work. The Target Chip Ganassi team, they are still in the hunt for this. As in the meantime, directly behind Zanardi, the Boesel team has retrieved their car, and they're going to push him back in 11.3 seconds. Alex Zanardi is away. Boesel, gentlemen, is still here.
Big problems for Raul Boesel, and just behind them we almost had a collision between Walter Salas and Brian Hurt in the pit lane. Salas had to lock up the used tires he was on in order to get into his pit stop without hitting Herta.
Bob, I had a ringside view of that one, and literally there couldn't have been more than 2 inches max between those wheels and making contact between Herta and Salas.
Meanwhile, Alex Zanardi beat Bobby Rahal out of the pits on that exchange of pit stops, and Zanardi assumes the race lead on lap 121. There is the gap. Zanardi is the red car. Rahal trails. That is Gilles de Ferran. Zanardi is going around. De Ferran shown as 8th in the race, and the problems continue for Raul Boesel's crew. More gearbox woes here at Michigan. Working in the cockpit as Boesel shakes his head. We'll take a break. We'll be back to Michigan after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Michigan Speedway, the picture tells the story. Bobby Rahal's machine, minus its right front tire, its right side pod, and perhaps its right rear, I couldn't quite see. After clouding the turn 2 wall, there you see Bobby. He appears to be okay. There is the crew. All that's left for them now is to pack up and perhaps go support their teammate, Brian Herta, who runs 7th here at the US 500. Here's what happened, Danny.
Bobby's in the right of your screen, blue and white. He's going in. We have a slower car right there. Bobby's coming around high. He had to lift, and he lifted. When he lifted, he got up into that gray, and there's nothing you can do. It's just like what happened to Parker. Parker cut a tire down. But see how the yellow and white car has moved up, and Bobby had to go just a little bit higher, got up in that gray, and there was nothing you can do. It's just so slippery up there.
From on board Bob's car.
Yellow car in front of him was Dennis Vitolo. He's going around him on the high side. See how he had to lift right there.
Amazing how these cars run out of that downforce, run out of grip. And there you see Bobby.
It's so tough, too, for guys in the slower car because the reason they're usually going slower is their car's not handling very well. And they're out there trying to hold on and just stay out of everybody's way. Moves up a little bit.
Let's check that out again in slow motion this time.
Dennis Vitolo in the yellow car. Bobby Rahal, see him just get up outside of that dark line, which is the groove, and get into what they call the gray, and there is nothing you can do. You get up there, it's like being on the marbles. It's just no control. It's like driving on sheet ice up there.
Bobby and Danny down here with the crew. They just had their first opportunity to look at this, and the visible wincing and the exclamations when they saw the replay, which normally we don't have access to down here. They were just stunned at the impact. We talked to Tim Cindric, who's on the radio with Bobby. He said only kart radio has told us that he's okay. He had nothing else to say on the radio as he exited the cockpit.
Now, Parker Johnstone had a very similar crash earlier in the race. Jack Arute is with him.
Parker, you can certainly relate to what just happened out on the racetrack with Bobby Rahal as we look at a giant bruise up on your left part of the upper forehead. Now, what caused that?
Well, first of all, I've got to thank CART and PPG and their rules committee, and especially the people at Reynard, because we had a failure at 230 plus miles an hour, and I went pretty, not headlong, but a really good shot into the wall, and I was able to walk away. This was from the right front suspension penetrating my helmet, and I think if it weren't for the Bell helmet that I wore, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you right now.
Parker, let me ask you a question. We're seeing a lot of gearboxes, especially on the Renards, beginning to fail. Can you isolate as to maybe what's causing that?
Well, we had a failure actually earlier in the week, and we've got a gearbox specialist who's one of the best, and from what I understand, it's been going through the Renard teams. We seem to get it solved, and then a long period of time goes by, and all of a sudden it fails again. So they don't know what the problem is specifically, but it's like the wheel bearing failures that we've had in the past. I know the guys at Renard and all the gearbox technicians in the paddock area are hard on it.
Take your hat off for a second. We want to show you where the suspension penetrated the helmet. And the funny part is Parker said, you know, I figured that I maybe had gotten my bell rung so bad that I was going to come out of the hospital and say, you know, I want to thank all these people at Daytona International Speedway and the Daytona 500 because I just won a Winston Cup race. You really got your bell rattled, didn't you?
I really did. And I tell you, if it weren't for the prayers of my friends and family and fans, I don't think I'd be standing here.
Tell you what, it's good to see him, and it's good to hear that things are so far so good with Bobby Rahal.
Jack, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. We showed that in-car on Bobby Rahal's, how fast they're traveling through that turns 1 and 2, and if something goes wrong, it's amazing to me, and I drove these cars, how much they'll take. A real tip of the hat to CART and their safety crews.
There you see Bobby's car being taken away. Here's a look at our race summary. Just past the halfway mark of the race, Alex Zanardi, the leader. The green race average, 217.676 miles an hour. 7 leaders, 8 changes through 5 cautions, 38 laps under caution, 11 cars out of the race. The record for fewest finishers here at Michigan is 7, 3 times, 1986, 1991, and 1994. You see the cars out of the race, many of them due to gearbox problems. The subject Jack brought up with Parker Johnstone. For Bobby Rahal, only his 3rd DNF of the season. And Christian Fittipaldi has spun onto the grass.
And look there, his right rear wheel and tire are missing. There it goes.
What in the world happened there, I wonder?
One would have to suspect if he's just made a pit stop that unfortunately the crew didn't get it on properly, and when he went back out it just came off.
So another reason for our 5th caution of the day.
Bob Varsha, we've got another gearbox problem that's claimed another victim. RAUL BOESEL has just climbed out of his cockpit, and they are having the same problems. And in fact, he's coming toward us right now. RAUL, any explanation from your crew? You talk with your engineers here about this gearbox problem that now seems to be sweeping many of the Renard teams.
It is. Everything was running fine. I, was pacing myself. We make few changes in the car during the stops, get better. It was a clean pit stop, everything. As soon as I put first gear, come out, something broke.
Tell us about the conditions of this long day on a very hot day while you were out there when things were going good.
Like I said, I was pacing. My Bruma sports car was running perfect. I was comfortable. Traffic wasn't too bad, so I was looking for a good finish.
Well, unfortunately, it didn't happen. Thank you, Raul.
Jack? Hey, Gary, one of the great things, though, about being a teammate is no sooner did Raul's car fail than they dispatch somebody over to the other Patrick teammate, and that, of course, being Scott Pruett. What they've determined may have been the difficulty in Boesel's gearbox is the fork, Danny Sullivan, that moves the gears in and out. Specifically in Raul Boesel's, the 5th gear fork. They've been on the radio back and forth to Scott Pruett, and they're saying, look, we might have to run the rest of this race without jamming it back and forth between 5th and that overdrive gear. So keep appraised of it and be careful.
We saw the tools arrayed on the rear wing of Raul's car as it was pushed away. The crew worked on it for a time to try to get that gearbox to work. Scott Pruett flexing his hands in the cockpit, getting set for a restart. 16 cars remain running unofficially. The kart safety team continues to work. There's the scene of Fittipaldi's slip off the racetrack on the left. So we will be under caution for a few more moments as the field continues to form up for the restart. Patrick Carpentier now shown as the race leader, with Scott Pruett second, Paul Tracy third, and Brian Herta fourth. As the work continues, there's Christian Fittipaldi back after that horrifying crash in Surfers Paradise, Australia back in early April.
So he's coming out of the pit. See the car wiggling around. He's got something wrong. He's radioed down. He pushed the button down there at the bottom. Radioed around. Whoa! Just lost a tire. Bounced right over the top of the car when it spun around. That was incredible footage. That's Dr. Terry Trammell right there on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, he's the guy that's put a lot of us back together.
And Danny, remember when you watch the replay, think about this. You talked about the fatigue of drivers. 500 miles in the heat and the humidity here on pit road. Fatigue can take its toll, and you can make a mistake, that kind of mistake, on pit road.
Well, Christian Fittipaldi lost that wheel and almost wound up wearing it. What a moment for the young Brazilian. We'll take a break and return live to Michigan in a moment. Back live at Michigan. Right there you saw some of the top drivers in the running for the $1 million PPG Cup. 7 of the top 14 drivers in the points championship are now out of the race. Here are the cars still running as we get into the second half of this 500-mile event. Patrick Carpentier up front, Scott Pruett followed by Paul Tracy, the points leader. Brian Herta fourth. Alex Zanardi made a late stop under yellow to top up the tank. He's dropped back to fifth. Mark Blundell is sixth. Gilles de Ferran seventh. Those cars on the lead lap. You see the rest of the field arrayed behind them. There is Alex Zanardi, having made that pit stop. Several stops remain in the race. See him working in the cockpit, trying to settle in. Moments ago, we saw Scott Pruett clenching and unclenching his fist, getting ready to race again. Gary Gerald has more on Alex Zanardi's situation.
Well, he came in benefiting on that yellow to top off. Lap 129, and we're up in the mid-130s at this point, and it's just a matter of routine service and making sure that he's got a full load of fuel that he can make a run. We might be able to get a word here with Chip Ganassi. Chip, the strategy in determining to bring Alex in at that point to top off.
Well, we just want to make sure he was topped off, Jerry. You know, you never know when you're going to get a yellow, so you want to stay loaded up with fuel. There's only 7 cars on the lead lap. The worst we were going to be was 7.
Have you told him anything about trying to protect the gearbox in line of what's happened with some of the Reynards today?
We tell him to protect the car all the time.
Okay, Chip Ganassi, knowing that there's still a long way to go with 7 cars in the lead lap.
Alex Zanardi, one of a few pairs of teammates out there who is the only man still waving the flag for Target Team Ganassi in the race right now. Scott Pruett has lost his teammate, RAUL BOESEL. Paul Tracy's teammate Al Unser is gone. Brian Herta's teammate Bobby Rahal hit the wall. A long day of racing here at Michigan Speedway. We'll take a break as Christian Fittipaldi's car is brought back in from one of the more bizarre incidents of the day. Stay with us. World Series is coming up in 2 weeks from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Kentucky, which always serves up great racing action. Last year it served up a 1-2 punch for Target Team Ganassi as Alex Zanardi and Jimmy Vasser finished first and second. Hugs all around in Victory Lane. Join us for the Miller 200, August 10th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, only on ABC Sports. Welcome back live to Michigan. Here's a program note. Tonight, primetime on ABC starts with Second Noah and America's Funniest Home Videos. Then at a special time, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, Hugh Grant and Andy McDowell star in the hilarious 4 Weddings and a Funeral. It's all tonight here on ABC. Now, there are some interesting things happening in the points championship. There is Juan Fangio II, nephew of the maestro, the 5-time Formula One world champion Juan Manuel Fangio. There is Hiro Matsushita of Japan, the Panasonic-sponsored Reynard. And there is Max Pappas in the MCI Reynard for Precision Preparation Racing. Archiero Wells team. What do they all have in common? They're all powered by Toyota engines, and all 3 of them are in the points right now here at the US 500. First time this year that's happened for the Toyota-powered cars. The safety car is off. We are ready for a restart on lap 140. The race leader, Patrick Carpentier, driving for Alumax and Tony Bettenhausen. And Paul Tracy is on the move from third.
Patrick Carpentier, for being a rookie, he made a great restart. Look at the gap that he's got. He anticipated it perfectly, took charge, and he's got a nice, comfortable lead.
Behind him, Scott Pruett, then Paul Tracy, then Brian Herta, Alex Zanardi, Mark Blundell, and Gilles de Ferran. The 7 cars on the lead lap.
Let's not forget Paul Tracy went all the way back to 18th spot after that drive-through. He had to make the penalty in the pits. He's back up to third.
Driving with the helmet he did not intend to wear at this super speedway event. Paul Tracy is charging forward, a winner in 3 consecutive races earlier this year. Still seeking Roger Penske's 100th career victory in the PPG Kart World Series. Bobby Rahal is out of the race. He's with Jack Arute.
Good news first, Bobby. Physically, you're okay, but tell us what happened.
Just lapping Vitolo, and he, you know, I guess he didn't see me, or he just started to move up a bit, and I was, you know, coming up to lap him, and I just got a little bit. I'm always on a high line anyway. The car was quite good up there, and he just moved me enough that it got me into the marbles, and as I said, that's all she wrote.
Now, your injuries, you bruised your hip over on the right side. That's about the extent of it?
Yeah, it's a real testament to these cars. I mean, I hit a ton. I mean, just cleaned the whole right side of the car off. And, you know, here I am. I'm going to Scotland tonight to play golf tomorrow with my friends. And that's a real testimonial to these cars, how strong they are and how safe it is.
And you know what, guys? I can hear it now when he shanks one. You know, ow, my hip. Oh. But seriously, it's good to have you not only out with the racing okay, but see you run as well as you did today, Bobby.
This is good for at least a few strokes, guys.
Bob?
We'll still be watching that handicap when he comes back. The battle for fourth between Bobby Rahal's teammate and protege Brian Herta, running with Alex Zanardi, and you see how the time has increased and decreased as Carpentier takes to the pit lane. Not going for any corner of the car. This all looked fairly routine at the moment. I wonder if you thought he had a tire going down, perhaps?
No, now see they're doing the engine cover on the back of the car. The mechanics were working on that. But their standard deal, fuel it, change the tires, because if they find the problem, then they can shoot back out and get back in the race.
Tough moment for the Bettenhausen team. Meanwhile, up front, Paul Tracy in red and orange continues his pursuit of the bright orange of Scott Pruett. Behind them, Herta, Zanardi, and Mark Blundell, winner of 2 of the last 3 races. The Englishman is back in it as well.
Problem for Patrick Carpentier, no oil pressure. That's among the things they're chasing now with all the body work being removed. He sits in the cockpit and waits the judgment of his crew.
Zanardi under Herta, wheel to wheel, so close together at such incredible speeds. What a battle. This is for 3rd place. Zanardi will try again. Two Reynards, Honda Power and Firestone tires for Zanardi. Good year.
Blundell, sorry, he got a run on him when they were battling like that. He had a cleaner line. He looks like he's going to get Brian Herta.
So Blundell continues to climb through the field, looking for his 3rd career victory, just 4 races after his first.
We're here with Christian Fittipaldi, and Christian, it was a pit miscue, correct, that cost you that tire?
Yeah, it was a pit area, pit error. The wheel came off, and fortunately enough, I was going very slow on the apron. I was just exiting the pits. It happens. Like, there's not a lot you can say. Today really wasn't like a great day. We were running 9th, but we were 2 laps behind. I think if I had lasted the whole race, probably I would have finished 4th or 5th, something like that.
Tough break for him, guys. Remember, this is the first time that he hasn't finished with any points in a 500-mile race.
All right, thank you, Jack. Continuing with the point about tires, 3 Firestone cars, 3 Goodyear cars in the top 6 right now.
Bob, not only that, we have 3 different engines up in the top 3 as well. with a Ford, a Mercedes, and a Honda.
Mercedes, the biggest winners on the engine front thus far this year with 7 victories. Tracy continues to close. Just a couple of car lengths now behind race leader Scott Pruett. Now slower traffic ahead. Pruett goes low. They instruct the drivers to hold their line as they're being lapped. Paul Tracy, meanwhile, up high, down low, any way to get around the slower cars.
But you will see when he went up there high, he had to lift off. He lost some momentum. Look at ZANARDI on the outside. That's a red car taking a run down the inside.
The lapped car of Art Meyer goes first, and then Paul Tracy running second is taken down by the Italian Alex ZANARDI, who moves into second place.
Guys, consider the efforts of Paul Tracy, though. He is driving right now with no dash and no onboard telemetry. So his crew is flying blind, and Paul Tracy is flying blind as well.
And right now he's giving up lots of ground to the man who is chasing him just 3 points behind for the championship. Alex ZANARDI has pulled ahead of Paul Tracy into second behind Scott Pruett, the race leader.
That pass, though, came around because of him trying to lap slower car on the outside. He had to back off of it. He lost momentum. Alex ZANARDI stayed in the throttle and had the momentum going down that back straight.
View back from Scott Pruett's car to the attacking Alex ZANARDI. Pruett 6th in the points championship coming in. 82 points to 109 for the leader, Paul Tracy. So he's not out of it, but he is out of the lead as ZANARDI flashes by underneath. Down to Gary Gerald.
Patrick Carpentier, your first 500-mile experience today. Did you prove something to yourself that you could run with these guys in these big races?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't test before we come here. We put the car on the racetrack, and as much as it was hard for us on the street circuits, my engineer did the magic job. I mean, no testing with full tank, everything, just half an hour. Put the car on the track, and I seriously believe I had the best car. Today I was flat out easily. It was just lifting to let the engine breathe. But we had an electrical failure, and that was it for us.
I think he can't wait to get another opportunity. Nice job, young man.
Thank you.
First DNF of the year for Patrick Carpentier. Now Scott Pruett comes under fire from Paul Tracy for second. And Tracy has to breathe it in turn 2 again.
And that's going to give Mark Blundell right behind him the momentum off the corner. Easily goes around him.
2 Mercedes-powered cars. Blundell moves up into 3rd place, dropping Tracy to 4th. And now suddenly, the 3 Firestone cars in the top 6 are running 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
Bob, let's not forget there's a lot of racing left to go. Paul Tracy's pit crew will be making adjustments, as the other ones will, in their next stop to try to dial that car in as the conditions change.
What a season it's been for Mark Blundell. Now firmly in control of 3rd place. He'll set out after the man to the left of your screen, Scott Pruett. There you see the running order. 155 laps complete. ZANARDI, 2nd in the points championship. Pruett, who was 6th. And Mark Blundell back in 10th. If he keeps winning races, that will change. Alex ZANARDI, the race leader, goes by Max Pappas. Pappas shown 11th now. On board with Scott Pruett. He is in 2nd. That's Pappas directly ahead on the road. And now Mark Blundell attacks Scott Pruett for 2nd. In and out of that draft behind the race car.
Well, there was also that slower car, Max Pappas, there, so he couldn't dive down to the inside where he wanted to go. He took a look up high. He realizes there's still a lot of laps to go. He'll have another shot at him.
Down into turn 3. Pruett breathing the engine a little bit, as we've heard all the drivers do throughout the day. And it's VITOLO in the yellow car being lapped. Blundell once again comes up to Pruett's gearbox, looking for a way around. This is where Bobby Rahal and Parker Johnstone both crashed.
Paul Tracy going around the outside, the same spot Bobby tried on the same car, Dennis Vitolo.
Crew is ready for Paul Tracy. Bob, they just laid out. He'll be scrambling in under this green flag situation, so he's going to lose more ground to the leaders.
Paul Tracy slows for the pit entrance. Blue cones on the left, blue and white striped cones mark the beginning of the pit entrance. He has to be on the 80-mile-an-hour speed limit there. He heads for the Penske pits.
When you've been driving around at 230, 240 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour feels like you're stopped.
Tracy is in here now, Danny. Remember, no telemetry. That means that they can't monitor a lot of the safety factors, but they have radio communication, so they were able to get him in all right. He makes it out of here in about a little over 14 seconds.
Talk about flying by the seat of your pants. That's what Paul Tracy is doing right now. Into the acceleration lane he comes. Meanwhile, looking out the back of Scott Pruett's car, there is Mark Blundell with the Pac West team. Motorola-sponsored Reynard. Boy, from the onboard camera, it looked like he was a lot further back than that. Blundell now fully at home here in America, racing in the PPG Kart World Series. Wife and children with him. Down low under Pruett as they flash across the start-finish line. Fangio ahead. Blundell may be able to pin Pruett against the back of the slower car. He doesn't need to. But now he'll need to go high to go around Fangio.
And you heard Scott lift coming out of there. You heard Scott just take the lift because he wasn't sure which way Mark was going to go.
There you see the action from high overhead. Green flag pit stops coming, we understand, particularly for Scott Pruett.
And under that green flag stop, Scott Pruett is going to make a major wing adjustment, guys. They want to take some turn out of the front wing to try and help the handling of this car.
Thanks, Jack. This is the view from our Honda Helicam. You see Pruett dropping further back. In fact, he's got Brian Herta. You saw that white car just swinging into the screen. There is Herta just behind Pruett. So Brian Herta, who has raced very well over the years here at Michigan, closes up on the third-place car.
One update on Paul Tracy, Bob. His radio battery is now starting to fade, and there are concerns that they may lose the radio communication. Remember, no telemetry. Now, if they lose the radio, they're in even deeper trouble. That was a routine stop, however, and they say he's right on his target. If they continue to go green, getting 30 laps per tank full, he could make it in 2 more stops.
Well, all you want to do, I guess, is bring home the steering wheel.
I think the crew would probably like you to bring home a little bit more than just the steering wheel.
Maybe the winner's check in the Vanderbilt Cup. Pruett and Herta run third and fourth. Sun now shining brightly over Michigan Speedway once again. The temperature continues to sizzle. ZANARDI with a 4.5-second lead over Mark Blundell in second. Then about 1.5 seconds back to Scott Pruett in third. And less than that to Brian Herta in fourth. Engine note comes off as Scott Pruett hits the pit lane with Herta just behind him.
Now, guys, here is the problem with the Renard gearboxes. It's at this point when you do what they call speed shifting. As we watch Brian Herta and Scott Pruett go in for service. It's at this point when you go back up through the sequential gearbox, getting ready for when you drop the jack in first gear. If you try to speed shift, that seems to be when there's a problem. They're building up the revs on Pruett's car, continue to work on Herta. Pruett is away in 14.3, and they're still working on Brian Herta's car. This is a very long stop for the Shell team. Bobby Rahaal's teammate still watching Brian Herta, and they have yet to signal him out as they continue to work at the rear of the car.
It's like they were trying to get the starter engaged. There might have been something in the way, or for some reason it wouldn't seat.
Part of the problem, Bob, as we said, with these Reynard seems to be during a pit stop when you try to do what they call a speed shift from first, as we watch Gil DeFerrin and the Valvoline team of Derek Walker go to work. DeFerrin was running the points for so many of the races in the middle of the season. Taking a wing adjustment. I'm finding all the drivers making a front wing adjustment, and he's gone. Some quick green flag stops, guys.
More than 36 seconds stationary for Brian Herta. And that is a big problem for the young driver from Ohio. The action continues here at Michigan. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back live at Michigan Speedway, the US 500 continues, and race leader Alex Zanardi is in the pits.
And he's been coached in by team owner Chip Ganassi, telling him to dive in, slow down. As I said, with all the Renards, they're concerned about the downshifting and the high-speed upshifting after the pit stop. Now, there's a problem. The air jack came off unexpectedly, but they got on the radio and told him to hold. Now they've told him to go away in 14 seconds.
Pretty smooth recovery there from what could have been a disaster for the Target Ganassi team. And Alex Zanardi heads back out. While we were away, Mark Blundell made a 13.6-second pit stop at the Pac West position.
You know, guys, as we looked at Alex Zanardi's pit stop, you saw that the jack went down unexpectedly. Now, some teams like to let the jack down before the fueling is done so that a driver in anticipation won't pop the clutch and spin the tires. That was not the case in this time. Actually, they were getting ready to pull it out. He was probably a second to a second and a half premature, but they were quick on the radio, told Alex to hold. Then, when they were ready, they told him to go.
Jack, we update that stop for the Pac West team. Blundell got routine service, made no visible changes to the setup on the car in 13.5 seconds. His teammate, however, Gugelman, came in after cutting down and blowing a left front tire. He kept it off the wall remarkably. They gave him fresh rubber. He's gone, but I mean, he shredded that left front. Close call for Big Mo.
Another problem in turn 2.
That looks like Scott Pruett.
Right front of the car heavily damaged. Even the left front suspension shows damage, and he stops on the racetrack. That will bring out the yellow flag. Jim McGee looks on. Pieces of the bodywork up there in the turn. Once again, turn 2 jumps up and bites someone. Pruett, the 15th car out of the race of the 28 that started. Kart safety team comes over to talk to the driver. Pruett trying to climb out. A lot to get disconnected.
He's got a drink tube there, his radio to get disconnected.
Again, let's look in turn 2. Pruett on the right of your screen.
He's up there, and he just gets that wheel. You see, he just gets that wheel, the right side, outside the black, the groove. See, he just gets up there. He had to lift. You can hear him come out there, gets up in that gray, and he's in the marbles, and there's nothing you can do.
Saw him had the wheel all the way cranked over, but if the car won't turn, the concrete comes up mighty quickly. Pruett appears to be okay. 175 laps into the race. There is Pat Patrick. We've seen so much in his 2.5 decades or so in IndyCar racing.
Of course, Pat is from Jackson, Michigan. That's where his company's based, and he has lived. And, you know, this is his home race, so you know he wants to win this one.
There you see the damage. Checking our front runners, Alex Zanardi, shown as race leader over Paul Tracy, Mark Blundell, Gilles LeFerrin, Brian Herta, Scott Pruett. Although still in 6th, we know his race has been run, and we'll be back to Michigan.
The US 500 on ABC Sports, brought to you by Toyota Motorsports. Our minds are always racing. Mobil 1 synthetic motor oil. Nothing outperforms Mobil 1. Robert Bosch Corp, makers of Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug. And Omega, the official timekeeper of CART.
Welcome back to Michigan. Here's a program note. Get ready for some football down Mexico way. Monday, August 4th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. ABC Sports has live NFL preseason football action. The Miami Dolphins against the Denver Broncos, live from Mexico City, Mexico. Monday, August 4th on ABC Sports. We are under caution here at Michigan. Still a packed house as the US 500 continues. Right outside of turn 2 on the track is the Penske Racing Restoration Shop and Museum, where Roger Penske preserves and maintains a collection of some of the greatest Penske race cars. Let's go inside. Each of these cars represents a shining moment in Roger Penske's career as an owner. Included in his collection, cars that have been driven by Mark Donohue, Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, Danny Sullivan, the whole family of Unzers, all contributing to Roger Penske's 99 wins as a car owner. The next win for Penske Racing will be his 100th. And the car that does it will no doubt head straight for the museum here at Michigan. Could it be this car? Paul Tracy? And the latest Penske chassis from Penske Cars in Poole, England. Mercedes-Benz power, Goodyear tires. Gary Gerald has more on Paul Tracy.
We've mentioned this business of not having the telemetry. Telemetry monitors all kinds of functions relating to the engine for Paul Tracy's Mercedes power plant. But one of the areas that it also monitors can be found right here in these tires. See this little device right here? This is a tire pressure sensor. And this little unit that the Penske team developed 3 or 4 years ago as a safety device, they now no longer can monitor this because of the telemetry. But this, with software, sends a radio signal back, and they can constantly monitor tire pressure so that if they cut a tire and they start to lose pressure slowly, they can alert the driver, get him into the pits. They can make the tire change without him having the tire suddenly go down and throw him into the wall. This is now almost standard on every race car. It's an expensive bit of equipment. It ends up costing about $5,000 for a set of 4 wheels, not including the price of the wheel. But if it keeps you out of the wall, it's money well spent.
No question about it. Thanks, Gary. There is Paul Tracy, who's had quite a weekend thus far, having his helmet lifted, losing communication and telemetry on his car. We are still under caution after 180 laps, and here's the way they run. 4 cars on the lead lap. Gilles de Ferran just made a pit visit. Brian Herta, the first of the lap cars, 1 lap down, in fact, all alone on his lap in 5th position.
And Bob, during this yellow flag, Chip Ganassi has been in animated conversation with his driver, Alex Zanardi, trying to diffuse as far as, like, you know, figure out exactly what's the car doing. In fact, that's exactly what he said to Alex on the radio. Is it pushing or is it loose? And he said, well, it pushes going in and it's loose coming out.
All right, thanks, Jack. There is Gilles de Ferran.
Just stepping out of the infield care center is Scott Pruett. And Scott, that was a tough one. What happened?
Well, I'm not sure. You know, the car was running great. We were just staying out of trouble. I wasn't pushing it. I was running around there in 6th gear, not taking any chances. And I got down into I got down into 1, and then going through 2, all of a sudden the nose just washed out. And I mean, I was clear out of the throttle trying to save the car, and just went up to the fence.
Tough break. You begin to think that maybe you only get 1 500-mile win, and that's it?
Unfortunately. And it's tough for the whole team. I mean, the Brahma guys did a super job. Car ran strong. And like I said, we were just waiting to the end. I mean, not taking any chances. So I'm just disappointed.
Now, we think we figured out what the problem is with the gearboxes. Did you have any problems in terms of speed shifting?
No, I don't typically speed shift anyway when it comes to ovals. I'm typically really easy on the gearbox and everything. So now our car was running strong. No problem at all.
Wasn't the gearbox, guys, but it was the concrete.
Jack mentioned Scott's previous win here at Michigan, one of the great finishes in PPG Kart World Series history. He and Al Unser Jr. went into the last lap, switched the lead a couple of times before Scott edged out little Al for the victory. Both of the protagonists in that drama now out of the race. 13 cars remain, and there they are, from Alex Zanardi up front to Juan Fangio at the back. While we're on the subject of the 1995 win for Scott Pruett, here's how it unfolded. Little Al down low, Pruett up high, battling wheel to wheel all the way around, and by that much, Scott Pruett picked up his first ever victory, one of a handful of drivers to win their first races here at Michigan. Could we see another one here today? Alex Zanardi leads the field across the line, and immediately Walter Sala's up there trying to get a lap back. Well, Zanardi's not going to let him have it. I thought for a moment that he might. Onto the backstretch. Mark Blundell runs in second. Paul Tracy third. Gilles de Ferran fourth. There is Herta. Black and white Reynard with Shell sponsorship.
Whoa.
Paul Tracy made a great move around the outside there. That had his heart in his mouth a little bit there.
3 wide ahead of him. Now there's Michel Jourdain Jr. from Mexico. His Reynard is slowing down while the battle continues. Herta and Tracy. Tracy way up high. That's Mark Blundell just ahead of Paul Tracy. Blundell shown in second place, and Tracy just eating him up from behind.
But he's got a problem because there's nowhere to go with him. He wants Brian Herta to go down on the inside, but Brian couldn't get it done.
Now Herta inserts himself between Blundell and Tracy.
When you see a driver move to the outside like that, you know his car is working well, and he likes that outside lane. But Brian's is obviously working very well down low.
There's the view from our Honda Helicam. Paul Tracy, now having dealt with Brian Herta, will try to make up ground again on the second place car of Mark Blundell. Look at the gap. There's Blundell. Distinctive sound of turbocharged IndyCar engines. Now Blundell up on slower traffic has to dart up high. That's Walter Salas, who tried so hard to get his lap back. It didn't work. Now the front runners come by. Blundell, it appears, can open up a lap pretty handily on the third place car of Tracy right now. Tracy going for the draft everywhere he can find it.
Every little bit helps. You can get them to pull you down that straightaway and just get them before you go in there to turn 3. You'll build up a couple of miles an hour speed going in there, and it really slingshots the car through the corner.
189 laps complete. There will be 60 laps to go next time by, which raises the possibility of one stop between here and the finish. There is Alex Zanardi running out the bottom of your screen. Here comes Mark Blundell, followed by Paul Tracy. The top 3. The US 500 continues, and we'll be back with more from Michigan Speedway in just a moment. Welcome back to a heavyweight automotive battle here at Michigan Speedway. We have the prize fighting version coming your way on ABC Sports Thursday, August 14th. Holyfield versus Tyson 2. Order up a pizza with all the fixings, including cartilage, if you like, and check it out August 14th on ABC Sports. Here at Michigan, there's your race leader, Alex Zanardi. Let's check out the pit situation. There you see the top 4 cars, the only 4 cars on the lead lap. What should be their final fuel window approaches, but it approaches at a different lap for each of the top 4 drivers. The difference being the amount of time the laps covered since they last pitted.
And we may have narrowed that window down for the leader, Alex Zanardi. According to his team, they are marking for lap 215. When he goes on to lap 215, they're going to bring Zanardi in.
After Alex Zanardi on the racetrack, this is Mauricio Gugelmin, but he is several laps down now, running in 7th place. For the Pac West team, his teammate Mark Blundell runs in 2nd place. Take a look at the interval from Gugelmin back to his teammate. There is Mark Blundell, 10th in points, but 2nd in this race, and he could have a big impact on the championship with a high finish today.
Bob, remember that early stop, the long stop for Gugelmin. They changed all the electronic components. Well, they're really thankful that they did, because now he's back up here in a chance where he can challenge for that number 6 spot, and it could be a worthwhile day considering the fact that it looked like his day was over in the early going.
Even though he is 5 laps down in 7th place, the points are the same. Let's pick up the next car in line. Here is Paul Tracy, the points leader by 3 over Alex Zanardi. But while Zanardi leads, Tracy, gunning for Roger Penske's 100th win, is in 3rd. There is Brian Herta, shown in 5th place, and a lap down. 12th in the championship coming in. Behind Herta is Gilles de Ferran. the most recent visitor to the pits. He is in 4th place, 12.3 seconds behind the race leader. DeFerrin is 5th in the championship. Behind DeFerrin. Long look back to the white Reynard of Walter Salas, shown in 11th place right now. 3rd in the battle for the Jim Truman Rookie of the Year award. Next up on the track, there is Dennis Vitolo, shown in 8th place and 6 laps down. Vitolo making limited appearances in the PPG Kart World Series this year. Here comes Juan Fangio. Dan Gurney's All-American Racers Reynard for Castrol and Jockey. And just behind him is Max Pappas. And those Toyota-powered cars continue to run in the points as we move into the late stages of this race. And up high above Pappas, there's your race leader, Alex Zanardi. Coming up on 200 laps. There will be 50 laps remaining next time by. We'll be back to Michigan after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Welcome back to Michigan Speedway. Tomorrow night, primetime on ABC, experience one of Africa's most spectacular events. The last charge of the Rhino at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central Time. Then 90210's Jenny Garth and Gregory Harrison star in Lies of the Heart. That's all tomorrow night on ABC. Here at Michigan Speedway, Alex Zanardi leads away with 45 laps remaining. There's Arndt Meyer, the young German. He is slowing, and he pulls below momentarily the white line. Meyer shown in 12th place. While we can, as you ride with Gilles DeFerrin, let's update our stories. The heat is cooling off here in the afternoon in Michigan. Heavy cloud cover overhead. In fact, rain before the day is out. What a change. And that is bringing speeds up once again. The engines have proven to be reliable. Very few engine problems on the day. Tires, 4 cut tires from debris, as best we can tell. 2 of them, one by Parker Johnstone, put him in the wall. Mauricio Gugelmin managed to keep his car off the wall and make the pits. And in the points race, Paul Tracy, the points leader, is currently running 3rd on the racetrack. Alex Zanardi is up front. He is 2nd in the championship. And Michael Andretti, who came in 3rd, is now out. But the man you ride with, Gilles DeFerrin, who entered this weekend 5th in the title chase, is 4th in the race. There you see our race summary. Alex Zanardi leads. The green flag race average speed, 219.216 miles an hour. 8 liters, 11 changes. Here are the cars out of the race. The risk includes many of the top men in the points, including Michael Andretti and Greg Moore, who chose not to speak with us after dropping out of the race. Scott Pruett is gone from the number 6 spot in the championship. Jimmy Vasser, the defending champion. RAUL BOESEL. The list goes on.
And Bob, you can see those clouds back there over in that screen looking over turn 2. That's where the weather comes from. It's got quite a bit darker. Cooled it off, and now they're running very quick.
Paul Tracy goes past Brian Herta, pulls up on Max Pappas, one of the Toyota-powered cars. Pappas running in 9th place. Here are the cars still running after 203 laps. 11 cars. Alex Zanardi up front. 4 cars on the lead lap. Mauricio Gugelmin is in. Gary Gerald.
We watch the Pac West team. Routine service. Mo getting that refreshing drink. It's going to be close as to whether or not he can go the distance. We're expecting his teammate, who's running in 2nd, in just 3 laps, maybe 2 laps now.
You notice that Big Mo nursed that car going out. We didn't see any light up of the tires. Took it very gently. Didn't want to do any damage.
And it'll be Blundell on this lap. The crew is over the wall. They'll be waiting him. They're at the pit out, so he's got a long way to go at no more than 80 miles per hour down pit road.
You see the running order with 211 laps in the books. Now, if the points were awarded now, here's how the championship would stand. Alex Zanardi moving into the race lead. Paul Tracy dropping to second by 4 points, followed by Gilles de Ferran and Michael Andretti dropping out of third down into fourth. Mark Blundell heads for his pit marks.
Boy, beautifully the way he glides it in. An experienced driver, buoyed by 2 victories in the last 3. New virtually to oval racing, wing change up front, waiting for all the fuel. Still waiting. Now he's going. 14 seconds for Blundell and Pac West. Will he be able to go the distance? I don't think so. If we stay green, I think we'll see him again.
Gary, you mentioned that he's waiting for fuel. Of course, they want to get every drop of fuel in on this last one to see if they can go as far as possible, make it to the end without having to stop again.
Yeah, and Danny, we should point out that with these larger tanks that are used for the 500-mile race, the gravity flow, and when the fuel load is lightened in those large tanks, it takes longer for the fuel to come out. That's a little different than what we see early in the race.
213 laps complete. On the left, Paul Tracy in second. On the right, Gilles de Ferran in third. Drivers are going to be trying to stretch that pit window so that they can be sure of having 1 stop left and perhaps having fuel on hand for a battle as de Ferran goes low up against Tracy. There's the view from de Ferran's cockpit. Late in a 500-mile race, the kid gloves come out in the pit area as de Ferran goes by Tracy for second place.
Now there will be no changes on Alex Zanardi's car. Simply 35 gallons of methanol, and then they will send him out. Now remember, the last time they want to make sure that they drop the air jack. Don't worry about it. Chip Ganassi tells us this. Now go, and they send him out in 13.5 seconds.
And this is now for the lead as Paul Tracy comes back around Gilles de Ferran. Alex Zanardi made his pit stop to Ferran, and Tracy are wheel to wheel.
It looked like Paul Tracy was coming down on him a little bit there.
On the backstretch, Tracy keeps that high line. Well, now he goes down. He may be headed for the pits.
For the pits. That's why he was trying to come down there.
De Ferran continues on his way. Paul Tracy headed for the pit lane. Here he comes. Lots of room out there in the pit lane this late in the race with 8 cars running.
Here's another perfect entry. These guys have got to feel like they're crawling when they come down here at 80 miles an hour after running in excess of 225 out there in the oval. Everything looks good. Here the revs come up. Tracy going 15.5 seconds. That's a little longer than usual.
Gary, everybody was gently going out of the pit, but not Paul Tracy. He lit him up and gave a great show.
Perhaps he realized that he had given up 2 seconds on the pit stop to Alex Zanardi.
And remember, we mentioned early when we started, Bob, 2 seconds in the pits, 250 yards on the racetrack at these speeds.
And Gary, you may wonder, when is Gilles de Ferran going to bring his car onto pit road? Derek Walker just radioed to his driver. We'll pit in 4 laps. 4 laps.
And that's going to put him in the possibility that he can, without question, go the rest of the way without a stop. I think there's a margin of doubt on some of these others who've just pitted.
Well, guys, let's not forget, he was the last guy in the pits under that yellow. He waited later than anybody else, so he pushed his window that little bit further.
How many times have we seen it this year? A driver who's questionable on fuel, dicing with a driver who knows he can get to the end. Now let's take a look at our lap chart. Laps since the last pit stop. Gilles de Ferran already deep into that window, pushing the envelope as far as he can in order not to have to stop before the end of this race. Alex Zanardi and Mark Blundell have already made their stops. Blundell with 5 laps since he took on fuel and tires. Zanardi just 3.
You think this race is physical? Between that screen, could you see Gilles de Ferran on the straightaway take his right hand off the wheel and was flexing it back and forth just to keep a little circulation going. He's got a pretty good grip on it in these corners. They're pulling 4 G's through there. There's a lot of load on the hands.
The contrasts are so sharp at this level of motorsport. The driver must remain calm and relaxed with all the violence and the speed and the power and the noise going on around him. And the heat still quite warm, but the cloud banks continue to roll over. Brian Herta pits from 4th. Make that 5th for Herta, running a lap down. And once again, a very, very careful pit exit.
Looks like he's slowing down to come in. He went down low, Gilles de Ferran.
That's indeed the case, Danny Sullivan. Derek Walker has called his driver in. They know that now they can go without having to have to come in for what we call splash and go. Their telemetry tells them they've already run this number of laps before. They'll be able to do it. Now, de Ferran brings the car in, hits the blue and red marks exactly, and the team goes to work. This should be a nominal stop with no changes anticipated. They did change the air pressure on the tires before he came in, made a small adjustment there. Now they need to take the 35 gallons of methanol. Once it's full, they send him away.
Conservative pit stop for the Walker team. To the left of your screen, Alex Zanardi flashes across the start-finish line to retake the race lead.
There he's going by Gilles de Ferran, who's trying to get that car up to speed, but losing a lot of ground.
So are we set now for the run to the checkers? That remains to be seen. It is Zanardi, de Ferran, Blundell, and Tracy. Brian Herta, a lap down. We'll be back. We're back live at Michigan. Don't forget, coming up next, final round coverage of the Senior British Open. John Bland came into the day as the leader after 3 rounds. The Senior British Open final round coverage coming up next on ABC Sports. Here at Michigan, Alex Zanardi's pit crew must now wait. Their work is done. Their man is on the track with fuel and tires to go the distance. He is the race leader. Mark Blundell shown in second, 21.4 seconds down, and then a lap down. Paul Tracy was just put down a lap by race leader Zanardi.
Bob, I got to correct you. The pit crew hopes their work is done for the day, except the celebration in Victory Circle.
Maybe that's what that fellow was just reminded of as he jumped back to his feet. Alex Zanardi with a couple of victories on the season, second in points. This is his chance to put a sword into the point standings and move right to the top with a victory at the US 500. It would be the first 500-mile victory for Zanardi and his first win on an oval. Comes up behind Brian Herta and motors by a Reynard chassis with Honda power and Firestone tires. Scanning the racetrack to find the second place car, Mark Blundell, and there he is. And at this point, Alex Zanardi is closer to Mark Blundell's gearbox than he is to his nose piece. A tremendous run for Zanardi, who seems to have this amazing ability to just put in fast laps, one after another. Recall Cleveland earlier this year, where he ran 16 laps faster than the fastest lap from the next fastest man. With each lap in the lead, the Target Chip Ganassi Racing Team puts $25 toward the Target House at St. Jude's Children's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. And should Alex Zanardi win this race, it will be a $5,000 donation. Look at the lap speeds on the most recent complete lap. Zanardi, 4 miles an hour quicker, almost 5 miles an hour faster than Paul Tracy, 3 miles an hour, 3.5 faster than Gilles de Ferran in fourth. 20 laps to go. The countdown begins in earnest for Alex Zanardi.
This is the time, though, that not only is the team and Chip Ganassi nervous, so is Alex Zanardi. It's like, how hard do I push him? I don't want to break the car, but I don't want to lose my momentum. I want to keep running what's got me here. I want to run that same pace with no mistakes. And please, car, hold together for these last laps.
Let's check out all 4 of our front-running cars now with our pit crew, beginning with Jackaroo.
Well, let's ask about Alex Zanardi. Danny, you were trying to say, was he concerned about the car? First of all, Zanardi is not concerned about fuel. They've got plenty. His car owner, Chip Ganassi, however, is concerned about the race pace. He keeps counseling his driver, Alex Zanardi, to go easy and to take it slow and deliberate. Now, going back to the 4th 4th-place runner, Gilles DeFerrin for Derek Walker. He also has concluded his scheduled pit stops. He, too, has plenty of fuel. What about 2nd and 3rd, Gary Gerald?
Well, for Mark Blundell, remember, he was the first of this group to cycle in, and he was the one we were concerned about being able to go the distance. And John Anderson has confirmed that. I asked him, he says, well, unfortunately, we're going to have to play it a little conservative on fuel. We're hoping that we have enough to get to 250 laps, but there definitely was a tone of question in his voice. As for Paul Tracy, not much conversation on the radio. We reported earlier that in addition to losing telemetry, his radio battery was going down. So they tried to minimize radio conversation so that if they need it in the late laps, they still have some power to handle the radio. Meanwhile, they're also saying it can be close on fuel for Tracy, but they believe they've got enough to get to the checker.
So the points leader coming in, Paul Tracy, is walking a high wire here in the closing laps of the US 500. See the speeds. ZANARDI remains the fastest car on the racetrack. There's Juan Fangio, who has pitted. No particular rush about this stop. Fangio was running 7th, which would tie his best ever finish in the PPG Kart World Series, but things are looking a little awkward down there right now. Among the cars still on the racetrack, Max Pappas could tie his best career finish in 9th. If he gets up to 8th, should Fangio go down, then that would be his best. Dennis Vitolo, Walter Salas, Arndt Meyer, all out there in career best finishing positions as things presently stand. There is Mad Max, born in Como, Italy, at the foot of the Alps on Lake Como, within earshot of the International Grand Prix circuit in the Royal Park at Monza, Italy. Broke into North American racing with a dazzling performance in the sports car race, the 24 Hours of Daytona, cutting qualifying lap specials at the end of 24 hours of racing in a Ferrari. He replaced the late Jeff Krosnoff in this car with Arturo Wells Racing. He is making the most of it. Look at his progress through the field from the 23rd starting position to his current 8th place. Made his first visit to Le Mans earlier this year to drive for Ferrari. Even though he enjoys what he's doing here, including his new digs in Newport Beach, California, Max Pappas remains an Italian racing driver through and through. In fact, he has an interesting relationship with the race leader Alex Zanardi. Zanardi came over from Europe to test for Chip Ganassi as Gilles DeFerrin goes underneath Pappas. Chip Ganassi liked what he saw, invited Alex Zanardi to sign a contract. Alex said, well, I also have arranged the opportunity to test for Cal Wells and the Arciero team, and I feel that I am honor-bound to go do that. Zanardi says Cal Wells said, go with Chip Ganassi. Max Pappas now in that ride. There's Hiro Matsushita of Japan, shown in 9th place now. Moving forward from the 26th starting position, a Reynard chassis. Toyota power. He is Max Pappas's teammate with Arciero Wells. He is also, as you may know, the owner of Swift Engineering. It is his company, under engineer David Bruns, that designed and built the Swift chassis that Michael Andretti won with in the season opener at Homestead, Florida. Christian Fittipaldi also runs a Swift for the Newman Haas team. But the man who owns the company that built that car drives this machine. Matsushita's best career finish in the PPG Kart World Series came at this racetrack in 1994 when he finished 6th. 10 laps remaining here at Michigan. The 500-mile odyssey is over for much of the field, but it remains an adventure for the cars remaining on the track as Gilles DeFerrin works his machine in 4th place.
And he's trying to close right there on Paul Tracy.
That's the final podium position up ahead.
He wants that spot, and if Paul's having to be conservative because of fuel, Gilles DeFerrin has plenty of fuel.
And Paul Tracy, you can be sure, does not want to give up any more championship points, particularly to a man who was in the top 5 in that championship. 5 men Michigan covered by just 15 points coming into the weekend. DeFerrin goes under Tracy for third.
Paul does not want to let up that spot. He stayed right there with him. I think Gilles just got a little too much on the lower line.
Here's a look at Gilles DeFerrin, husband and father of 2 children.
This is a typical Derek Walker race. The car didn't seem like it was that good at the beginning. He wasn't on the leaderboard. He wasn't around. They just kept fiddling with it all day long. And look where he is at the end of the day.
The upper left, the roll call of the drivers who will not finish the US 500 here at Michigan. There is another 500-mile race coming up this year, the season finale at the California Speedway in Fontana. Roger Penske's immaculate new 2-mile facility, basically a blueprint of this track in Michigan. Slightly lower banking, spectacular spectator amenities, and great racing, you can be sure. Paul Tracy, right there on your screen, has already tested at the California Speedway. The season will end there, and perhaps there the championship with it. Laps ticking away, and Mauricio Gugelmin is back in the Pac West pit.
No tires, just a little splash of fuel.
That's exactly. You got it, Danny. That's all they needed. They were in there early, a couple of laps ahead of his teammate Blundell. Could that be an indication that Blundell may yet have to get in for a splash? That's what we're going to try to find out.
6 laps remaining as Mauricio Gugelmin brings his car back up to speed. Reynard chassis with Mercedes-Benz power and Firestone tires. 5 laps to go. There is the race leader, Alex Zanardi. His first visit to an oval track in Homestead resulted in a wheel coming off the car and spinning into retirement at the beginning of last season. But he has come back. There on the left of the screen, the picture in the upper right, Joe Montana. Part owner in the team. Next to him, Mo Nunn, engineer for Alex Zanardi, the man who talks with his man on the radio. 4 laps remaining for Alex Zanardi. 4 laps to victory. The winner's purse. And the Vanderbilt Cup. 4 laps to the points lead in the running for the PPG Cup. And a $1 million bonus. Sweeping across the start-finish line, 3 laps to go for Alex Zanardi. And now the seconds begin to seem like hours for the racing driver. Listening for the sounds as you watch Mark Blundell in second. This will be a huge boon to him. More championship points moving up the charts. Think about his last 2 races, a couple of victories, and a second place finish here. 2 laps to go for Mark Blundell. Walter Salas just ahead as Alex Zanardi flashes down the backstretch. When he hits the start-finish stripe, the white flag will wave in the hands of flagman Jim Swintal. There it is. And Alex Zanardi takes it. 1 lap to go. Less than 2 miles remaining to his 3rd victory of the year as Alex Zanardi has taken this championship by the neck.
And one of his big goals, he told us this week, Bob, I want to win on an oval. This would be his first if he can hang on for just about 1.25 miles.
Target Chip Ganassi Racing has been absolutely bulletproof in the US 500. They are the one and only team to win. Last year, Jimmy Vasser. This year, Alex Zanardi as the checkered flags wave over the Italian's 3rd victory of the year. And a celebration breaks out in the pits. 6th career victory for Zanardi, his 3rd of the year. 8th win of the year for Firestone tires and the 3rd for Honda engines. A fist in the air, and why not? A well-earned victory on a steaming hot day here in Michigan, and Alex Zanardi's resume is complete. He has his oval victory, and best of all, it comes in a 500-miler. We'll be back.
Well, Alex Zanardi has come into victory lane like a conquering hero. Coming out of the cockpit, kissed the car. You got your first oval track victory. Congratulations.
Well, you know what? There was a lot of people that said, yeah, Zanardi is quick everywhere, but he can't win a 500. He's not smart enough. Well, today we proved they were wrong. And this baby did the work. My mechanics did great. And my engineer, Maurice Nant, gave me the best piece of equipment I ever drove in my whole life.
You know, let's talk about Mo Nunn for a second. We have documented the fact that you wanted to win an oval track race. Maurice Nunn has won in Formula One, won all over the IndyCar circuit. It said that the one place he wanted to win more than anything else was right here at Michigan. You brought it to him, but early in the race, Alex, in the drive-through after the penalty, what went through your mind?
Well, I think we have to look at this because that could be a problem once again. I went in Jimmy's pit instead of mine. But anyway, everything went smooth from there on. I'm just sorry that I screwed Jimmy's race at that point. I don't know that what happened later on to him, but he was fast. He could have won that race too. I'm sorry for him. But anyway, this year is going fine. I mean, Mo Nunn is going to retire next year, if he will. And we won Long Beach and Michigan, which...
Yeah, but wait a minute. The season isn't over. How many more can you win?
Well, I'm going to try to win it all, but it's not easy. Today I had the car. I had to bring it home in this position.
What about the Firestone tires and the Renard Honda package? How did they perform?
Renard is fantastic, and this is one of the best days of my life, and I have to give a big thank to these guys, not simply because they gave us this kind of car, but because if I'm here today, it's also thanks to them. The Honda was great. I mean, in the heat, it performed so well. We were able to run full power of the time, whether other people had to probably, you know, slow down a little bit, and the Firestone was simply fantastic. I mean, we had the tire.
Well, now we've done the math. You have a 6-point lead in the chase for the PPG Cup over Paul Tracy. How does that feel?
Well, my mate Paul, huh? Paul is a great driver, and I'm very, very proud to be in front of him right now in the point standings. All I can do is live day by day, get the best out of every day, and try to, you know, turn back just when we get to Fontana.
Well, Gary Gerald, the one thing that Chip Ganassi said on the radio as Alex Zanardi pulled into victory lane as he gets the hug from his wife is, "You are my hero, Alex."
Well, he's a good one, a role model. Here's a man who'd won 2 of the last 3. You settled for second today. You were saying the vibration on that last set out there in your hands, tough physically for you for this 500 miles.
Yeah, it was a little bit tough at the end because we changed onto the prime tire at the end, and we picked up a vibration. And I was holding on so tight, I just couldn't relax, and I lost a blood supply to my left hand, and I didn't feel like I had a hand on the left for a moment, but we're okay.
For a man who comes from road racing strictly and now adapting more and more to ovals, how comfortable are you starting to feel?
Honestly, I never feel comfortable around a super speedway, but at the same time, we've always ran very well. But I still need to win one on an oval. That's still eluding me.
You were the first of the leaders in this last sequence to come in and make your pit stop. So were you concerned about having enough fuel to get to the checkered flag, and did you have to play it conservative?
No, I think we were okay on fuel. You know, the team were doing a fantastic job. Again, they operated so well, you know, on the pit stops, and they read the race very well. We were okay on fuel. A little bit marginal at the end, and we had to drive a little bit conservative, but I'm sure everybody did.
When you consider all of the frustration that you went through with the injury last year, your first year in this circuit, and then what's happened here, winning 2 of the last 4 races on the podium again today, what a transformation. How does that make you feel?
Makes me feel really good. I mean, I'm loving it, every single minute of it, and I'm looking forward to moving to my new house next week, and I'm here. I'm in the USA. It's great.
Well, congratulations again.
Thanks a lot.
Jack?
Well, look who we've caught up with. Joe Montana, who's part owner of this Team Ganassi team for Target, along with Chip Ganassi. And first, Joe, you've been to Super Bowls. You've been to all the great events. How's it feel to get a 500-mile victory?
I'll tell you what, it was a lot tougher than I thought. Well, you get ahead like that, and you just pray nothing goes wrong. And, you know, he ran a great race. The guys did a great job, you know, and it's just great to be a part of it. I'm happy for Chip especially, you know, come back here the second time in a row, and money's a little different, but it's the same win.
Chip Ganassi, come over here, because one of the things you said about bringing Joe Montana on board is that he could bring a winning attitude. It seems to have worked for your team. Vassar last year for the Vanderbilt Cup, and now the U.S. 500 again, this time with Zanardi.
I mean, hey, we love having Joe around. We love Michigan. On target again, just where we should have been. I mean, who said that? Deja vu all over again. We were leading the thing, and it was like last year. I mean, we were just passing people at will. And, I mean, I'm happy for Alex. He was so much in his career looking forward to an oval win sometime. And what a better place to do it than Michigan.
And $5,000 for the win goes to the St. Jude Children's Hospital, plus a lot of lap money, too.
No question. A lot of lap money, a lot of big weekend for St. Jude's, I'll tell you. Big weekend for them. We're proud to give it to them.
Big weekend for Zanardi, Ganassi, and Montana as well. Bob?
All right, thanks, Jack. Well over $22,000 now donated by the team to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Here's a look at the unofficial results. Alex Zanardi gets the big one, the U.S. 500. Mark Blundell finishes second. Gilles Defer in third. Paul Tracy, Brian Herta, and Mauricio Gugelmin follow. Let's look at the victory streak this year by Alex Zanardi. First, on the hot streets of Long Beach, California. And then at Cleveland, coming from the back of the pack and carving happy donuts of victory on the airport runways at Burke Lakefront. And then here at the U.S. 500, the biggest victory of Alex Zanardi's career, you can be sure. What did Chip Ganassi call it? Deja vu all over again. Although a good baseball man like him should know, Yogi Berra supposedly said that. We'll be back to Michigan after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Race 12 of the PPG Kart World Series season is now complete. Race 13 is coming up from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. It is tight, it is twisty, and it is fast. Last year, Alex Zanardi and Jimmy Vassar finished 1-2 en route to the Series Championship and Rookie of the Year honors. Be sure to join us for the Miller 200 from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Sunday, August 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC Sports. Welcome back to Michigan. Gilles Deferin is standing by down in Victory Lane. Gary Gerald is with him.
Gilles Deferin, you end up on the podium in third place. Tell us how physically demanding, how tough is 500 miles in one of these races?
Well, I'm very tired indeed. It's very, very tiring. I mean, you know, there's vibration, there's the noise. I got ringing ears, and my hands are numb, and I'm a little dizzy, but it's all right.
But when you spell all of those things out, are you safe out there running at these speeds under those conditions?
Oh, yeah, because you only feel that when you stop the car and you let the concentration go away, you know, then all of a sudden it hits you. But when you're out there, you know, at least I was trying really hard to catch Tracy, and your concentration is 100%, and you hardly feel anything. You're just, you know, focusing on getting best result.
Now, you take a step here in the championship point standings. I believe you'll be in the number 3 spot. Were you aware of the fact that Andretti and Moore were having problems early?
Yes, I was. Indeed, I was very aware. Yeah, I was told that on the radio early on, and you know, but really, that didn't really influence our strategy. All we wanted to do is to get to the end in the best possible way.
They want you on the podium. Go enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we've caught up with Paul Tracy, and Paul, I'll tell you, not bad for a guy that had no telemetry, had no radio, lost your helmet. This has been a tough weekend for you.
This has been a tough weekend for everybody, and for the crew. Everybody did a great job on the team, and given all the circumstances that we had today, I mean, we had the cards stacked against us, and you know, we hung in there and just went off our schedule, and you know, we got a good finish. We ran up a second for a while, so you know, we just didn't have the handling there at the end to stay with those guys.
Near the end of the race, we noticed that some of the guys began to overtake you. Was that a result of the handles, or were you a little concerned about fuel as well?
No, we were good on fuel because we pitted late, and you know, we just had a big push, came into the car the last 70 laps, and we tried to take a whack at it and dial it out in the last stop with a couple turns of front wing and more stagger, but you know, as the run went on, it started pushing more, and Gilles just, you know, reeled me in and got by.
You've done an incredible job with what many people say is a chassis that really needs some work. Have you guys gained on it at all? Are things getting better for Team Penske?
Well, they weren't looking good today, but we finished well, and you know, we've got some work to do. We know that, and we're going to test for 3 days this week and see what we can find.
Bob?
All right, thank you, Jack. Long day for Paul Tracy, but a great day for Alex Zanardi, who will collect the Vanderbilt Cup, emblematic of victory in the U.S. 500. We'll be back. Back at Michigan, here's a look at the point standings after 12 rounds of the championship. Alex Zanardi will take a 6-point lead into our next stop in Mid-Ohio. I'm Bob Varsha for Danny Sullivan, Gary Gerald, and Jack Arute. So long from Michigan Speedway.